Chapter 3774. The half-step sovereigns on the other battlefields were similarly indifferent. The death of one of their companions no longer had any impact on the overall situation. The situation was already set in stone. No matter how heaven-defying the martial epic's methods were, they could no longer reverse the situation. The death of one of their companions was equivalent to having one less competitor. What was so bad about that? Only the primal chaos tyrant's expression turned unsightly when he saw the two half-step sovereigns dying together. The martial epic's situation was already very bad. Although there were 4 battlefields, in reality, only Yi Shiwen and the primal chaos tyrant could fight half-step sovereigns. If Yi Shiwen was not here, although he managed to take away a half-step sovereign, the situation would not improve. Instead, it would worsen. Originally, it was 4 against 2, with each person having to deal with 2 half-step sovereigns. Now, it will be 1 against 3. Such a situation was completely disadvantageous to the primal chaos tyrant. Even if the other party was only 3 half-step sovereigns who were not at their peak, he was not at his peak either. Furthermore, even if he was at his peak, he was not very confident of facing 3 half-step sovereigns. 1 half-step sovereign expert was already very difficult to deal with, much less 3. Damn brat. After deceiving me for so long, he won't die here first, right? The primal chaos tyrant roared. Boundless shock waves shook the entire primal chaos. Countless life forms in the primal chaos died. This kind of exchange was simply too terrifying. When the shock waves scattered, everyone saw a shocking scene. Yi Shiwen's sword of fate had stabbed into the evil corpse Mad Venerable's body. The evil corpse Mad Venerable's body aged at an alarming rate, as if he had reached the end of his life in an instant. Violent Venerable Evil Corpse's fist also smashed into Yi Shiwen's chest and pierced through the good fortune treasure robe. Yi Shiwen's chest was smashed into smithereens, and his body was nearly pierced through. Although Yi Shiwen's chest had not been pierced, his internal organs had still been severely injured. Bang! Everyone heard a loud explosion. The extremely aged evil corpse Mad Venerable exploded on the spot, turning into a blood mist that filled the air. Then a huge hand grabbed it and dragged it away. Everyone fixed their eyes on him and realized that he was none other than Yi Shiwen, whose 5 viscera and 6 bowels had been severely injured. Although the reviled corpse repulsive sovereign had aged to the extreme, his corpse still contained a terrifying amount of energy, which was poured directly into the world tree. The roots of the world tree kept shaking, crazily absorbing the energy in the blood mist. The entire world tree grew to a height of tens of thousands of feet, piercing straight into the sky. On the world tree fruit shone with an even more alluring light. It even shone with wisps of golden light. It was undergoing a qualitative transformation. Although Berserk Sovereign didn't even have 1/100th of his original strength, he was still a half-step Sovereign Realm expert. He was far stronger than a heavenly venerate. Pooh! Yi Shiwen spouted out a mouthful of blood essence. If one looked closely, one could even see the broken pieces of internal organs spurting out from it. This punch had almost ended his life. If not for the good fortune robe blocking most of the power, he would have perished together with the reviled corpse repulsive sovereign. A half-step Sovereign Realm expert's trump card at the last moment was indeed terrifying. Looks like I've won. Yi Shiwen grinned. His smile looked a little sad. Half-step sovereigns are only SOSO. I can kill them. However, he was indeed extremely weak right now. Even with the good fortune robe and the sword of fate, he could only stand shoulder to shoulder with a half-step sovereign. The price he had to pay to kill one of them was too high, especially if he had to kill his opponent in a short period of time. Stalling for time was no longer effective. Hearing Yi Shiwen's words, the half-step sovereigns on the battlefield smiled coldly. Yi Shiwen's words were tantamount to provoking them. This was just like when Yi Shiwen had killed a heavenly venerate as an emperor. This matter caused a huge uproar among the heavenly venerates. You overestimate yourself. Granny Ghost sneered. They didn't have the time to kill Yi Shiwen right now. Otherwise, Yi Shiwen would really be dead. The only one who was happy was probably the primal chaos overlord. Although Yi Shiwen had expressed his disdain for a half-step dominator, it was still good for him to have a companion. Even if Yi Shiwen was clearly heavily injured and could bleed in the primal chaos at any moment. Yi Shiwen wanted to attack again, but he was already in a heavily injured state. He hurriedly retreated from the Human One Union state and sat cross-legged in the primal chaos to recover. Although this was extremely dangerous, he had no other choice. The martial sovereign seal revolved above his head, providing protection for him. The good fortune robe also bloomed with circles of light, forming a boundary to protect him. Even so, it was still extremely dangerous. However, he could only hurry up and recover. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face the next battle in such a situation. At first, he had been able to forcefully suppress the violent corpse venerable's punch that had pierced through his good fortune treasure robe. However, the move that had nearly taken him down with the violent corpse venerable had completely shattered all of his defenses. Even the good fortune robe couldn't block it. With the passage of time, his 5 viscera and 6 bowels were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 2 huge, bloody holes in his chest had already joined together and were gradually recovering at this time. This allowed the good fortune robe, which had a hole in it, to automatically recover. It absorbed the primal chaos aura and gradually recovered. Time! Time! What I lack the most now is time. Yi Shiwen gritted his teeth. He needed to buy time. He looked into the distance. The current situation in the fortune realm was becoming more and more disadvantageous to the martial Dao epic. More and more ancient epics were joining in. The army of the fortune realm was retreating step by step, and the Chaos Divine Dynasty was retreating even faster. After all, the Chaos Divine Dynasty had just been forcibly united by the Chaos Overlord. Unlike the Fortune Divine Dynasty, the Chaos Divine Dynasty was, to a large extent, just a noun and a concept to the foreign creatures. Therefore, it was difficult for them to receive complete command, unlike the Fortune God Dynasty, which had the Fortune God Dynasty's central authority. Even so, the Fortune God Dynasty was only slightly better than the Chaos God Dynasty. The ancient era's army descended from the sky and did not give them a chance to organize a line of defense. They landed in different places and attacked from all directions at the same time. There was no distinction between who attacked first and who attacked first. Yi Shiwen could see the most tragic attack happening on Mount Buzhou, the ancestral land of the human race. More than 100 emperors landed on Mount Buzhou and attacked at the same time. One could imagine how terrifying it was. There was even a powerful ghost, Dao, epochs, heavenly venerate among them. If Yi Shiwen had not left a backup plan on Mount Buzhou, although Sword Venerate was no longer here, Yi Shiwen still sealed a wisp of essence, qi, and spirit in Mount Buzhou and created a spirit incarnation to block the ghost Dao epoch's heavenly venerate. Otherwise, Mount Buzhou would have fallen in an instant. But even so, it was only a matter of time for Mount Buzhou to fall. Yi Shiwen's spirit incarnation was not like Sword Venerate, which was formed by a wisp of essence, qi, and spirit. Therefore, its strength was limited, and the time it could exist was limited. Once it was released, its existence was already on the countdown. Hold on. Eastern Heavenly Venerate will come back. We have to hold on until Eastern Heavenly Venerate comes back. On Mount Buzhou, a huge demonic figure appeared. It was indomitable, like a pillar supporting the heavens. It waved its arms and destroyed hundreds of thousands of malicious ghosts. This person was none other than Yemo. However, at this moment, Yemo's body was already covered in numerous wounds. His supreme devil body was bleeding nonstop, and the eerie, ghostly qi was constantly invading his body. There was also a huge wound on his body, and it was as if he was about to be cut in half. Jia, Eastern Heavenly Venerate. Do you think he can save you? This time, the martial Dao epic is really finished. You will all become my resources. A huge ghostly howl resounded. A malicious ghost emperor from the ghost Dao epic charged at Yemo. He was the one who caused Yemo's injuries. Although he was not the only one, and a few people besieged Yemo, there was no doubt that he was powerful. Although Yemo was in a desperate situation, No one could help him at this time. The other Emperors were also in a bitter fight, facing the attacks of several Emperors at the same time. Moon Empress Bian Xiaoya held the bright moon in her hand. Wherever she passed, the ancient epic's army suffered countless casualties. The might of an extreme Taoist was completely unleashed. But at the same time, her injuries were no less than Yumo's. In the depths of Mount Buzhou, there was still a terrible battle. Hua Minghan spewed out boundless Nanming Li fire and destroyed an attacking ancient epic's army. However, she was immediately surrounded by several corpse Dao epics emperors. Beside her, Yi Qianqian held a long sword in her hand. She created the boundless underworld phenomenon alone, suppressing the road leading to the depths of Mount Buzhou. She alone withstood the attacks of more than 5 emperors. Behind her, in the depths of Mount Buzhou, Little Crescent Moon was constantly making hand seals, controlling the countless barriers and formations that Yi Shiwen left on Mount Buzhou. These formations consumed a lot of energy to operate every minute and second. Only emperors could withstand it. But even so, there were still arrays and barriers that were constantly being broken. Little Crescent Moon had also suffered from the backlash because of the arrays and barriers being broken many times. Blood kept flowing out. "Father, where are you? I believe you will come to save us." Chapter 3775. Yi Shiwen felt as if his heart was being tormented by the cries of countless creatures. Indeed, he could choose to escape to the edge of the primal chaos and escape this calamity. However, he would not choose to do so. There were things a man could not do. This time, the ancient epic was going to exterminate the entire martial epic. They were not just targeting anyone. They were going to kill everyone. Xiao Chun could not back down. His family was in the martial epic as well. His friends and family. Everything he had was in the martial epic. If he had run away when he encountered difficulties, he would not have achieved what he had today. People who failed had their own reasons for failing, but those who succeeded were often astonishingly similar. Time passed by minute. Every minute and every second was a kind of torture. After Yi Shiwen dealt with rampaging Corpse Venerable, the battle of the half-step sovereigns in the primal chaos finally came to an end. It was the battle between Sword Venerate and Ghost Granny. Sword Venerate was grabbed by Ghost Granny's ghostly claws. Then, she tore him in half. Blood was shed in the primal chaos. Blood was sprinkled in the primal chaos. Then, Ghost Granny grinned and reached for the Eastern Heavenly Venerate seal in Sword Venerate's body. This was a treasure that gathered the Eastern Territory's destiny. If not for the Eastern Territory's destiny, Sword Venerate would not have been able to fight her for so long. He would have been killed by her claw long ago. The difference between them was too great. Suddenly, the Sword Venerate let out a long cry before his body exploded. Originally, the explosion of a mere Heavenly Venerate wouldn't have bothered Granny Ghost. However, with the Eastern Heavenly Venerate seal, a supreme treasure condensed from the light of the Eastern region, this seemingly inconspicuous explosion had the most terrifying might. Ghost Granny's ghostly claws exploded into a bloody mist. Even half of Ghost Granny's body was blown off. Ghost Granny let out a deafening howl and stared at Yi Shiwen with her ghostly eyes. Sword Venerate was already dead. Even if she wanted to bicker with a dead man, she did not have the chance. However, Yi Shiwen was Sword Venerate's main body. Naturally, she would seek revenge from Yi Shiwen. This time, it could be said that she had suffered a double loss. Not only had she failed to obtain the Eastern Celestial Venerate seal, but she had also been injured by the Eastern region's luck chi that had erupted from the Eastern region. If the Eastern Celestial Sovereign seal exploded, the consequences would be shocking. For a long period of time, the luck of the Eastern region would be much weaker. It could be said that the price paid was huge. However, they were already at the point of life and death. How could they care about anything else? Even if there were any repercussions, it was better than sitting and waiting for death. Most importantly, Yi Shiwen was confident that he could control the destiny of the Eastern region by himself. Luck was something that couldn't be touched or seen. Yishuwen could obtain a lot of benefits from the eastern region's luck, but conversely, Yishuwen could also enhance the luck of the eastern region. His existence could ensure the safety of the eastern domain. This was a very mysterious process of mutual conversion. Therefore, Yishuwen dared to formulate such a strategy. How dare you injure me? I'll tear you to pieces. Granny Ghost let out a shrill roar, and the entire primal chaos was stirred up by billowing waves that shook the heavens and the earth. Ghost Granny was furious to the extreme. Yishuwen, who was recuperating, suddenly opened his eyes. At this time, he hadn't fully recovered, but he had recovered by more than half. Although he wasn't at his peak, he wasn't afraid to fight again. In other words, he didn't have a choice. If Ghost Granny rushed over, he could only try his best to fight with her. Just as Ghost Granny was about to finish off Yishuwen after she had recovered from her injuries, suddenly, the entire world shook violently. It wasn't just a fortune realm. Even the primal chaos was shaking. Everything was shaking, as if the heavens were angry. This scene was terrifying, and at the same time, it shocked everyone. What's going on? Yishuwen also opened his eyes, but unlike the average person, he was able to distinguish the source of the vibration from the situation where the vibration was coming from all directions. He looked towards the source of the shaking and saw that in the depths of the endless void, there was an incomparably huge array. This array covered a vast area, at least billions of miles, and was even vaster than a world. And beside the array, there was a person presiding over the array. Who else could it be but the half-moon immortal lord? Sky ceiling array, Yishuwen said with his eyes wide open. This was because he recognized that this formation was the same as the heaven sealing talisman he used to destroy the seventh gold era. It was the same method. No wonder the half-moon immortal lord is missing. So he is presiding over the sky sealing array. This terrifying array was born to seal the heavenly Tao. When it was born, it couldn't be allowed to exist in the world and would be suppressed by the heavenly Tao. It would only be possible if there was a half-step sovereign expert presiding over it. And the source of this huge shaking was actually this sky sealing array. This sky sealing array seemed to be sealing the most terrifying thing in it, and it sent chills down everyone's spines. Thinking of the function of the sky sealing array, it was not hard to imagine what was sealed in it. It was the heavenly Tao. The difficulty of sealing the originally elusive heavenly Tao into the array showed how difficult it was. He actually sealed the heavenly Tao into it. Yishuwen's pupils constricted slightly. It seemed like something was about to charge out of the entire sky sealing array, like an unparalleled, ferocious beast. It's the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao is about to charge out. Yishuwen could not help but open his eyes wide. These people could only seal the heavenly Tao, but they could not destroy the entire martial epic. After all, the martial epic was too vast, far larger than an epic like the Seventh Gold Era, which was on the verge of destruction. So, was this the final step of the massacre of the Heavens War? No, I can't let them succeed just like that. Yishuwen thought to himself, if even the heavenly Tao was slaughtered, then the consequences would be unimaginable. It would really be over. Suddenly, at this moment, a figure appeared in the sealing heaven formation. It was a young man who was around 9 meters tall, had an extremely perfect figure, and an extremely handsome face. There was not a single trace of emotion on the young man's face, or rather, there was not a single trace of emotion on his face. His body was densely covered with all kinds of seals that had turned into divine chains, firmly locking him in place, not allowing him to escape. That is, the heavenly Tao. Whether it was Yishuwen or the chaotic overlord, they were all stunned as they looked at the extremely handsome young man in the depths of the primal chaos. That was the incarnation of the heavenly Tao, the most perfect existence in the world. Any heavenly venerables, even half-step sovereigns, were nothing compared to him. Was that the heavenly Tao that dominated everything in the martial epic? What kind of means did the absolute heaven sage leave behind? To be able to capture the heavenly Tao and even seal it, Yishuwen felt horrified just looking at it. The incarnation of the heavenly Tao possessed a horrifying majesty. Even half-step sovereigns could not compare to it. Just by looking at it, the horrifying fluctuations surpassed that of all the heavenly venerables present. None of them could compare to it. The power of the heavenly Tao was the sum of all things in the world. Even if the incarnation of the heavenly Tao could not truly use the sum of all things in the world, it was still an extremely horrifying power if it gathered a portion of it. Humans could defy the heavens because the heavens did not care about humans at all. As the saying went, the heavens were heartless and treated all things as dogs. In the eyes of the heavens, all living things were the same. It would not treat some creatures with a different level of respect just because they had intelligence, nor would it ignore some creatures just because they did not have intelligence. Therefore, these cultivators were more or less in awe of the heavens. They also understood that it was almost impossible to resist the heavenly Tao with their own strength. This was because, in fact, even powerful warriors themselves were a part of the heavenly Tao. This showed how strong the power of the heavenly Tao was. Hence, Yishuin was even more curious about what the absolute heaven sage had left behind to allow the half-moon immortal lord to do this. If the half-moon immortal lord had to face the power of the heavenly Tao alone, the half-moon immortal lord would not have lasted more than a few rounds. The incarnation of the heavenly Tao had just appeared, causing the world to shake violently. Every move he made contained immense power. Suddenly, an incomparably huge ray of light swept out from the creation world and into the chaos, like a powerful beam of light shooting into the sky. Immediately after, a scroll flew out of the creation divine capital and into the primal chaos. It's the creation universe scroll. Why is the creation universe scroll moving? Could someone be summoning the creation universe scroll? Is it the creation heavenly monarch? Many people were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. The power and status of the creation universe scroll did not need to be mentioned. Even an ordinary peak heavenly venerate would have to expend a lot of effort to use the creation universe scroll and might not succeed. Now, the creation universe scroll was no longer protecting the safety of the entire creation divine capital. Instead, it suddenly flew up and into the primal chaos. This shocked everyone. What was happening in the primal chaos that required the use of the creation universe scroll? Could it be that the Eastern heavenly venerate is summoning the creation universe scroll? This might not be impossible. The help of the creation universe scroll is needed to defeat these peerless enemies. Some people also guessed that the person summoning the creation universe scroll was Yishuin. However, only Yishuin knew that the person summoning the creation universe scroll was not him, but the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. Chapter 3776. The creation universe map was like a beam of light that traversed the entire primal chaos. Then, the creation universe map transformed into a huge world. Where else could it be if not the creation realm? Although this creation realm was several times smaller, it looked very realistic. This small creation realm grew larger and larger, growing with the wind. In an instant, it had turned into a huge world. Then, it smashed down on the heaven's ceiling formation. Sure enough, just as Yishuin had expected, this fortune of the universe diagram had been summoned by the incarnation of Heaven's Way, and its target was the sealed heaven array. As long as this heaven ceiling formation was broken, the heavenly Tao's power would definitely be able to inflict heavy damage on these foreign ancient epics. At that time, even if both sides suffered, they would not be destroyed like this. Rumble. The creation universe map's might was pushed to the limit. This was a horrifying might that Yi Shiwen had never seen before. Compared to the last time when the Fortune Divine Dynasty exerted all their strength to activate the Fortune Universe Scroll, the power was even greater. This was the creation universe map's true might. In the current world, aside from the Fortune God Monarch, only the Heavenly Tao could perfectly unleash the creation universe map's might. The loud collision caused the entire primal chaos to tremble horribly. That horrifying might sent chills down everyone's spines. The entire heaven-sealing great array was shaking violently as if it would completely collapse in the next second. This is too terrifying. With such might, just one strike has the horrifying strength to severely injure a half-step ruler. Yishuan thought to himself as he watched from afar. No wonder those half-step rulers needed the item left behind by the absolute heaven sage to attack the martial epic's heavenly Tao. At its peak, the martial epic's heavenly Tao was even more horrifying than a ruler expert. If not for being sealed, the martial epic's heavenly Tao would be even more horrifying than a ruler expert. Only an expert of that level could unleash the creation universe map's full might. However, this is also good. We can use the creation universe map to smash the heaven sealing formation and release the heavenly Tao's will. At that time, no matter how many ancient epics armies come, they will all die, Yishuan said in pleasant surprise. However, things were clearly not that simple. Since the half-moon immortal lord dared to organize this encirclement, he was clearly prepared. Heaven-splitting devil axe come. Half-moon immortal monarch burst out with a loud roar. A gigantic demonic axe descended from the sky and slashed down with shocking power, almost splitting the entire world in half. Such power was truly shocking and horrifying. This was the peerless Tao artifact of the demonic epic, the heaven-splitting demon axe. After the Battle of Moon City, these two Tao artifacts once again clashed. However, it was clear that the creation of the universe map was slightly more powerful. Under the support of the heavenly Tao, the creation of the universe map's power was completely unleashed, while the heaven-splitting demonic axe did not have such an ability. Although the might of the splitting heavens demonic axe was still terrifying, it was clearly inferior to the might of the creation universe diagram. Suppress. The incarnation of the heavenly Tao simply opened his mouth with a cold expression and uttered the word suppress. The universe map of creation instantly bloomed with billions of beams of immortal light. The immortal light was like countless waterfalls that directly filled the entire chaos. Even something as powerful as the heaven-splitting demonic axe was instantly suppressed. Its boundlessly terrifying power was also suppressed, unable to erupt. Based on this speed, it was only a matter of time before the creation of the universe map suppressed the heaven-splitting demonic axe. A Tao artifact was indeed terrifying, but it also depended on the user. If it was in the hands of a Tao artifact, its might would be shocking. Otherwise, its power would not be so terrifying. It was clearly much weaker. Roar! An incomparably loud, demonic roar rang out, and the suppressed heaven-splitting devil axe's artifact spirit suddenly awoke. With the support of the artifact spirit, it was equivalent to having a sovereign realm expert controlling the heaven-splitting devil axe, even if it was only for a short period of time. Although it was only for a short period of time, the heaven-splitting demonic axe's power still skyrocketed. From afar, it looked like a towering giant that could prop up heaven and earth in the chaos. It was like a majestic existence that created the entire world. With the heaven-splitting demonic axe in hand, it chopped down ruthlessly at the creation of the universe map that was suppressing it. The creation of the universe map had earth-shattering power. That terrifying power was completely unleashed in an instant. Every swing of the axe caused the entire chaos to tremble violently. At this moment, a figure appeared from within the creation of the universe map. It was the artifact spirit of the creation of a universe map. It appeared and blocked the demon ancestor's projection with a heaven-splitting demonic axe. No one knew whether these two supreme experts had fought before, but now they were fighting in such a special way to determine the victor. It could even be said that in the eyes of the world, this battle would determine who was stronger and who was weaker. However, it was clear that the creation of the universe map was stronger with the enhancement of the heavenly Tao. It could completely suppress the heaven-splitting demonic axe. Just as the fortune universe map was about to suppress the heaven-splitting demonic axe, and even had the energy to create a huge world to attack the heaven-sealing grand array, Half-Moon Immortal Lord could no longer hold back. If this went on, The heaven-sealing grand array would not be able to hold on any longer. It would be broken by the heavenly Tao. Come! The half-moon immortal Lord roared again. In the void, another ray of light streaked across the horizon. It was an ancient book that seemed to have existed since countless years ago. This thick book recorded all the secrets of the ancient world. Book of Sacred Abilities, Suppress. The ancient book grew larger and larger. Soon, it was as big as a world. Then slowly opened. With a deafening roar, countless rays of light flew out of the ancient book and suppressed the creation of the universe map. Rumble. This book of sacred abilities actually broke through the suppression of the creation of a universe map against the heaven-splitting demonic axe. That's the book of sacred abilities from the sacred abilities era. The Chaos Overlord stared coldly at the master of sacred abilities before him. His cultivation base was vast, and he was very knowledgeable. Although he did not know everything about the sacred abilities era, the Book of Sacred Abilities was a famous Dominator Tao artifact. How could he not know about it? The Sacred Abilities era was once a powerful epic. It was an existence that shook the world and made countless epics submit to it. During that epoch, an extremely tyrannical Dominator expert was born. The Tao artifact that he carried with him was this Book of Sacred Abilities. It was said that the Book of Sacred Abilities recorded all the sacred abilities in the world. All the sacred abilities that existed in the world were recorded. In fact, many schools of sacred abilities in the martial epic actually originated from this book of sacred abilities. Although he was born very early compared to the current juniors, he was still not one of the life forms that were born when the world was created. However, because he was born very early, many things about the creation of the world were still circulating. He had also heard that at the beginning of the world, a book of sacred abilities barged into the world and imparted the great Tao of sacred abilities to the newly born innate life forms. After that, it disappeared without a trace. It was also from that time onwards that the martial epic began to have the inheritance of the great Tao of sacred abilities. Aside from the great Tao of magic skills, there are also the demonic Tao and many other inheritances from the other epics. Rumor had it that a horrifying demonic ancestor descended from the sky and taught the demonic Tao to those innate life forms. He lectured about the demonic Tao and turned into 3,000 giants of the demonic Tao. They once swept through a region, even suppressing the native martial epic's martial Tao to the point of suffocation. In the other epics, there were many legends about the Book of Sacred Abilities. If the martial epic was destroyed in the future, the creation universe map might travel through the river of time and arrive in the next epic. It would spread the seeds of the martial epic, allowing more life forms in the next epic to cultivate the martial epic. This was also permitted by the heavenly Tao. Even if the more great Tao was spread, the more complete the heavenly Tao of this epic would be. This was the evolution of the heavenly Tao. Now that the Book of Sacred Abilities was found in the Divine Ability epic, it was easy to imagine how important this Book of Sacred Abilities was. It could be said that the Book of Sacred Abilities could not be satisfied until the martial epic was destroyed. This time, for the sake of destroying our martial epic, you really put in a lot of effort. Using the Book of Sacred Abilities once must have paid a significant price, right? The primal chaos tyrant roared through clenched teeth. As long as it can destroy your martial epic, everything is worth it. I already said that you were on the wrong side. Do you think your martial epic has a chance to make a comeback? Ha ha ha, what a joke. The Book of Sacred Abilities could only laugh coldly. Even something as strong as the creation universe map could not be as strong as before when the two sovereign Tao tools attacked it from the left and right. At this moment, the martial epic's heavenly Tao remained unflustered, continuously executing arts. However, at the same time, the sky's ceiling formation continuously corroded this heavenly Tao incarnation. Before the heavenly Tao manifested, this sky's ceiling formation could only seal the heavenly Tao at best, cutting off the connection between the heavenly Tao and the creation realm. However, now that the heavenly Tao manifested, the sky-sealing formation immediately surrounded and attacked. The divine law chains continuously tightened, creating bloody wounds on the heavenly Tao incarnation's perfect body. Blood spurted out. This was the heavenly Tao that wanted to kill the martial epic's heavenly Tao with just the sky-sealing formation. Suppress. The heavenly Tao shouted again, and the creation universe map burst forth with a horrifying light again, suppressing everything. It directly knocked away the two sovereign Tao tools and smashed at the sky-sealing formation. Chapter 3777. Rumble. After forcefully breaking through the obstruction of the two ruler Tao treasures, the creation universe map landed on the sky-sealing formation. Rumble. After a series of terrifying tremors, cracks actually appeared on the entire sky-sealing formation. The half-moon immortal lord could not help but vomit a mouthful of blood, losing more than 1,000,000 years of cultivation. If not for the sky-sealing formation's protection, this strike would have severely injured him to the point of death. The raging heavenly Tao was so horrifying that no one could resist it. Even a ruler expert had to avoid it, let alone a half-step ruler like him. This was when he was at his peak in his prime. If it was a severely injured half-step ruler, like the Heavenless Demon Lord, this strike would have killed him. However, this did not stop the greed in the half-moon immortal lord's eyes. On the contrary, the greed in his heart grew even stronger. The harder it was to obtain something, the more valuable it was. The more it was so, the more it proved that after the martial epic ended, the more benefits Shao Chun could obtain. He could do what Sage Absolute Heaven could do back then. Granny Ghost, why are you still not coming to help me? The half-moon immortal lord roared at Granny Ghost, the only one who managed to break free. Granny Ghost was also immersed in this sudden change. She glared at Yi Shiwen, then looked at the current situation and finally made a choice. If she did not help the half-moon immortal lord now, once he was defeated and the martial epic's heavenly Tao was released, the consequences would be unimaginable. They would all die without a burial place. The martial epic's heavenly Tao did not have emotions. However, they had killed countless people in the creation realm and accumulated boundless resentment. Once the martial epic's heavenly Tao was released, the consequences would be unimaginable. These flames of anger would pour out on them, and they would all die without a burial ground. Not a single one of them would be able to escape. They had already thought of this risk before they came. There was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Wait until I deal with the martial epic's heavenly Tao. Then I'll deal with you. In the end, Granny Ghost did not choose to kill Yi Shiwen. Instead, she flew towards the sky-sealing formation. Granny Ghost let out a sharp, ghostly howl. In the boundless chaos, another terrifying pressure appeared. It was a ship. It was a ghost ship that emitted boundless ghost chi. This ghost ship seemed to have directly sailed out of the river of time. The entire primordial chaos was about to turn into a land of ghosts under this ghost ship. On this ghost ship, there were countless malicious ghosts on it, and they let out shrill ghost howls. This is the Ghost Epic's epic ghost ship. Yi Shiwen immediately recognized the origin of this ship. This ship was very famous in many eras. This fame was usually accompanied by destruction. Whenever an era was about to be destroyed, this era ghost ship would appear. Legend had it that this epic ghost ship would come to guide the countless heroic spirits that died in the Doomsday War, traversing one epic after another until the final moment of eternal life descended. However, Yi Shiwen knew that this was not the case. Or rather, this was not entirely the case. This epic ghost ship traversed one epic after another. Its goal was eternal life in the endless future. This was correct, but it was not here to guide the countless heroic spirits that died in battle. It was here to plunder. Under the influence of the epic ghost ship, the living beings that died in battle would turn into heroic spirits. These heroic spirits, that were experts in the previous life, would be plundered by the epic ghost ship and refined, becoming the fundamental driving force for this epic ghost ship to traverse the primordial chaos. Even the ghost epic could not grasp the traces of this epic ghost ship. This was because the origin of this epic ghost ship was very mysterious. It was born at the beginning of the ghost epic. It was very powerful. When the ghost epic was in danger, it came out to save the ghost epic. After the collapse of the ghost epic, it disappeared completely. It would only come out to plunder the heroic spirits that died in battle when the current epic was destroyed. In other words, when a new epic was born, this epic ghost ship would traverse time and space, arrive at the new epic, and spread the ghost Tao's seeds. This would last forever, until the true arrival of eternal life. However, there was nothing in this world that could be obtained without paying. Even the epic ghost ship needed to replenish energy. The way it replenished energy was to devour these heroic spirits. These heroic spirits that were plundered would become the food of this epic ghost ship. Now, the ghost epic actually found a way to find this epic ghost ship. It was easy to imagine how much they wanted to destroy the martial epic this time. This era's ghost ship emerged from the primal chaos, and then it charged forward as if it was heading straight for eternal life. Boom! The era's ghost ship bombarded the creation universe map and blasted it away on the spot. The might of this collision was simply too shocking. On the era's ghost ship stood a figure. Who else could it be but Granny Ghost? Only she could control the era's ghost ship at this time. Epic ghost ship, lend me your power. After this matter is over, I will prepare a sacrifice of 100 billion living beings for you. Granny Ghost muttered. This was the price she had to pay for using the epic ghost ship. It was like she was offering a sacrifice to the heavens. Otherwise, with her cultivation base, she wouldn't have been able to track the epic ghost ship, let alone control it. Naturally, these 100 billion living beings would not be from the ghost epic, but the martial epic. In her opinion, as long as she destroyed the martial epic's heavenly Tao, these 100 billion living beings would be a piece of cake. Under the pressure of the 3 sovereign Tao tools, even a strong creation universe map could not gain the upper hand. The item spirit could only retreat and barely resist the attacks of the 3 sovereign Tao tools. On the other side, Tian Tao could no longer control the creation of a universe map like before. The great seal of the heavens formation was like a shackle that locked him tightly. Blood-colored wounds had already started to appear on his body. The half-moon immortal lord had clearly come prepared. This heaven-sealing grand array was specially designed to seal the power of the heavenly Tao. No matter how powerful the heavenly Tao was, it would not be able to exert its power in the face of this heaven-sealing grand array. On the contrary, it would be completely suppressed. Even the power of the heavenly Tao was absorbed by this heaven-sealing grand array, which then suppressed the power of the heavenly Tao. The situation suddenly worsened, and it was even worse than before. At least, they still had hope before the universe creation map was used. But now, even though the universe creation map was used, it still couldn't break through the sky-sealing great array. This made countless people feel despair. Many ordinary creatures couldn't see what was happening in the primal chaos, but now that the heavenly Tao was trapped, a scene appeared in their hearts. It was the firmament, the heavens that usually protected them, but at this time, it was trapped in the endless primal chaos. Oh heavens, how can this be? Could it be that we're really doomed this time? Many life forms wailed. At this time, another battle had ended in the primal chaos. It was the battle between the heavenless demon lord and the northern heavenly venerate. PFFF. The heavenless demon lord's demonic claw pierced the northern heavenly venerate's chest, dug out his heart, and crushed it into nothing. PFFF. The northern heavenly venerate vomited a mouthful of blood. He was severely injured and his breathing was weak. He was on the verge of death. You overestimate yourself. How dare you block my path? The heavenless demon lord sneered. As long as he dealt with the northern heavenly venerate, he could fly up and control the heaven-splitting demonic axe. Once he destroyed the martial epic's heavenly Tao, his plan would basically succeed. The heavenless demon lord slashed his claw towards the northern heavenly venerate. Bang! The tragedy of the northern heavenly venerate being clawed to death did not happen. On the contrary, A figure appeared in front of the northern heavenly venerate and blocked the attack for him. The heavenless demon lord took a closer look. Who else could it be but Yi Shiwen? You actually dare to stand in my way? Although you killed the evil corpse mad deity, you should have suffered heavy injuries as well. Instead of hiding in a corner and struggling to catch your breath, you actually dare to appear in front of me. I think you must be tired of living. The heavenless demon lord sneered when he saw Yi Shiwen. Although he was severely injured and not at his peak, Yi Shiwen was not at his peak either. He had paid a terrible price in the battle with the evil corpse mad venerate. The injury on his chest had not fully healed, and there was still a bloody hole. The bloody hole was filled with corpse energy and was very difficult to remove. Anyone could see that the evil corpse mad venerate had left an irreparable injury on Yi Shiwen. Lingering in a corner? Sorry, I can't find those words in my dictionary, Yi Shiwen said with a smile. Then, he asked the northern heavenly venerate, Are you all right now? I'm fine. It's just that half-step sovereign experts are hard to deal with. I now understand why the middle heavenly venerate and the western heavenly venerate lost so miserably. It's not that they were too weak, but that the half-moon immortal lord was too strong. The northern heavenly venerate said, while coughing blood, I can only hold on until here. I'll leave the rest to you. The martial epic is also in your hands. Eastern heavenly venerate, do your best. The northern heavenly venerate fainted after speaking. Yi Shiwen waved his hand, and the martial sovereign seal flew out and enveloped the northern heavenly venerate, protecting him. Then he took the initiative to face the heavenless demon lord. Chapter 3778. You want to stop me in this state? Heavenless demon king sneered at Yi Shiwen. The wounds on Yi Shiwen's body looked horrifying. Yi Shiwen's eyes lit up as he looked at heavenless demon king. Aren't you also in a severely injured state? Is this the pot calling the kettle black? Heavenless demon king's injuries weren't any lighter than Yi Shiwen's. Not only did the wounds inflicted by Fortune Heavenly Monarch not heal, they even worsened as time passed. I think you're really courting death. Heavenless Demon King didn't take Yi Shiwen seriously. A terrifying aura was spreading from his body. It was unimaginably terrifying, several times more terrifying. This was the aura of a half-step sovereign. However, Yi Shiwen didn't budge an inch. He'd fought against the chaotic overlord, and after a bloody battle, he'd killed violent corpse sovereign. He didn't lack experience fighting half-step sovereigns. Facing such a situation, it could be considered a common occurrence. Boom! Heavenless Demon King attacked first. The entire primal chaos seemed like it was about to be destroyed. There was only endless primal chaos. There was no sky, no earth, nothing. It was as if everything in the world had returned to their origin. But now, the Heavenless Devil Lord's attack caused his terrifying aura to surge into billion-foot waves. Boundless demonic light swept out. He pointed out with his finger. In an instant, it was as though he had pointed out a long river of time. That instant of light was too dazzling. It was incomparably dazzling. This was Heavenless Demon King's supreme demonic technique. In an instant, Yi Shiwen felt as if he had pierced through him. He was truly 100 times more terrifying, cutting heaven and earth. Yi Shiwen raised his hand and gripped his sword with both hands. Then he ruthlessly slashed down. Countless dazzling sword light erupted. In an instant, it turned into a blazing long river of swordsmanship. The long river of swordsmanship pierced through the entire primal chaos and met the finger. Rumble, cutting heaven and earth, directly shattered Heavenless Demon King's finger. It shattered the primal chaos and split it in half from the middle. Endless primal chaos chi poured out and swept in all directions. Walalala. Above the northern Tianzuan's body, the martial sovereign seal released countless rays of light that fell down, forming a barrier. The earth trembled crazily. This move was too horrifying. Just one slash was enough to destroy the energy of a king-level dragon vein. One could imagine how horrifying it was. However, Yi Shiwen didn't stop at all after this sword attack. He raised his hand and slashed down again. Slash the chaos. Yi Shiwen roared, and the aura on his body rose by a lot. It seemed as if it had climbed to a limit, and then climbed to another limit. The primal chaos trembled, and the shockwaves even spread to the Fortune realm, causing many experts in the Fortune realm to raise their heads and look at the battle, feeling incomparably terrified. What kind of battle was this? How could there be such terrifying existences in this world? Heavenless Demon Monarch hadn't expected Yi Shiwen's counterattack to be so swift and fierce. He hastily arranged layers of barriers, but they were cut into two halves in an instant. This sword directly blasted into his body. This was simply a fatal blow. One had to know that the power of this sword was shocking enough to severely injure a half-step sovereign. In addition, Heavenless Demon Monarch was already injured, and he was barely holding on. In order to prevent his injuries from exploding, he didn't dare to use his full strength. There was even a moment of stagnation after he attacked. This wasn't a problem for him, as the Northern Tianzuan couldn't do anything to him. However, his opponent was no longer the Northern Tianzuan, but the Eastern Tianzuan, Yi Shiwen, who was 10 times more terrifying than the Northern Tianzuan. It was just a momentary problem, but Yi Shiwen caught it and severely injured him in an instant. Bang! Heavenless Demon Monarch let out a blood-curdling scream, and his entire body exploded into pieces. Looking from afar, one could see that his chest was the center of the explosion. His spirit was cut by the sword of fate, and it was burning fiercely. All the top-notch experts who were paying attention to this battle were completely dumbfounded. Was Heavenless Demon Monarch killed just like that? Heavenless Demon Monarch was a peerless expert who had dominated the demonic epic for countless epics. Aside from the demon ancestor, who hadn't appeared for a long time, he was already the strongest existence. He was also one of the trump cards that the demonic epic relied on to dominate the many ancient epics. How could he be killed so easily? This was especially so for the many demonic epics experts. They were all dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They had led an army to invade the martial epics, yet the peak experts of their epics had been instantly killed. How depressing was this? If it were before, they wouldn't have believed it. However, Yi Shiwen had already killed the corpse epic berserk, corpse venerable. If he could kill another one, it wouldn't be a big deal. Cutting primal chaos. Yi Shiwen didn't stop with his first move. He slashed again with his sword, and blood dripped from his palm. After using cutting primal chaos twice in a row, even if he didn't consider the consumption of energy and the support of the energy spheres, his body still couldn't take it. If he were at his peak, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, he had just been severely injured. But at this moment, he couldn't care so much. He went berserk and slashed with his sword. The entire primal chaos surged and was cut in half. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, Yi Shiwen slashed over 100 times. Each sword could easily destroy the entire primal chaos and annihilate the world. Heavenless Demon Monarch's body exploded many times. Blood flowed everywhere. Almost all the attacks were airtight, not giving Heavenless Demon Monarch a chance to fight back. However, when Heavenless Demon Monarch was about to be killed, Yi Shiwen finally couldn't hold on anymore. His body exploded on the spot, turning into a bloody mist. Although he recovered in the next moment, his vitality was also injured, and the injury on his chest became more serious. Huff, huff, huff. Yi Shiwen found it difficult to even breathe. His eyelids were heavy. Although this series of attacks had severely injured Heavenless Demon Monarch, he wasn't much better off. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of years of cultivation had been destroyed by this explosion. Heavenless Demon Monarch also took advantage of this opportunity to escape. He dragged his broken body and reformed it in the distance. He had suffered greatly in the series of battles just now and was almost killed. If Yi Shiwen's body could hold on, he might have been killed by this series of attacks. After all, although Yi Shiwen's current situation was terrible, he was also in a state where he was on the verge of death. His injuries weren't getting better, but were getting worse. If not for this, he wouldn't have taken the risk to participate in Half Moon Immortal Monarch's plan. You lunatic! Heavenless Demon Monarch stood in the primal chaos, bathed in blood. This was the worst he had suffered apart from the fight with fake creation Heavenly Monarch. There was only a merciless coldness in his eyes, no hysterical rage, and he didn't say anything. Instead, his expression turned even colder. The injuries on his body healed in a moment, but the wound inflicted by fortune creation Heavenly Monarch didn't heal. Instead, it became more serious, and the injury became even more serious. It wouldn't take long for him to die from these injuries, even if Yi Shiwen didn't kill him. There was only a boundless killing intention in his eyes at this time. Only killing and crazily devouring the blood essence of those creatures could slow down the aggravation of his injuries. Although it wouldn't cure the root of the problem, it would treat the symptoms. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to last until the Taodai feast. He would die here and become someone else's trophy. However, compared to those ordinary living beings, even if he slaughtered billions of them, the vitality contained in Yi Shiwen's blood essence wouldn't be as much. He stared at Yi Shiwen with incomparable greed in his eyes, treating Yi Shiwen like prey. Many experts in the fortune realm were shocked. No matter what era they were from, they were all shocked to see this scene. Yi Shiwen, who hadn't even stepped into the half-step sovereign realm, was actually suppressing a half-step sovereign realm expert and beating him up. Such a result was too shocking. Everyone felt a chill down their spine, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. The martial epic seemed to have entered the countdown, but now was the time to unleash the true power of the martial epic. Most of them had never heard of this Eastern heavenly venerate, but he was already so terrifying. How much power did the martial epic have? They didn't dare to imagine. Madman? No, I'm not crazy. I'm very calm. It's a pity that I couldn't kill you just now. I was so close. Yi Shiwen looked coldly at Heavenless Demon Monarch and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Do you want to die together with me? Heavenless Demon Monarch finally spoke again, the murderous intent in his eyes becoming denser. I underestimated you. I have to admit that you relied on your own strength to kill evil corpse mad venerate and not some trick. It's already not easy for you to reach this point, but it's still a pity. If you don't reach this step, you will never understand how terrifying an expert at this step is. So what if I understand? So what if I don't understand? In the end, I'm just going to send you on your way. Yi Shiwen's expression became even calmer, but his murderous intent was just as dense. Among the 5 half-step sovereigns, Yi Shiwen was determined to sacrifice everything and only manage to kill evil corpse mad venerate. He also suffered a backlash. Among the remaining 4, Heavenless Demon Monarch was the most likely to be killed. Although it wouldn't be easy, Heavenless Demon Monarch's injuries were his greatest opportunity. An opportunity to bury Heavenless Demon Monarch. Chapter 3779. To him, any half-step ruler was too strong, too terrifying. But the most terrifying one was the half-moon immortal monarch, who was born in this epic. Because he was still at his peak, he had not aged and had not been heavily injured by others. That was why he was the most terrifying. 5 half-step rulers. Even if the primal chaos overlord held one back, there were still 4 of them left. They couldn't attack all at once. Perhaps there was still hope. Send me on my way, then prepare yourself to die. The Heavenless Demon Lord's expression turned serious. In fact, he had never underestimated Yi Shiwen. He wouldn't underestimate someone who could destroy the demonic corpse overlord. Even he didn't have the confidence to do so. Fortunately, Yi Shiwen had also suffered serious injuries in this unprecedented battle. Who can avoid death in this chaotic world? I've always wanted eternal life, but there are too many things in this world that are more important than eternal life. Furthermore, it's just to prolong my life. Yi Shiwen said word by word. He was trying to recover from his injuries. I've already prepared myself for death. What about you? You broke my Tao to prolong your life, so I'll take your life. That's fair enough. Boom. The primal chaos exploded. The Heavenless Demon Lord made his move. This time, he didn't use his finger. Instead, he conjured another demonic technique and focused it on his palm. This lightning-fast palm shot towards Yi Shiwen. The Heavenless Demon Lord's terrifying combat power was finally on full display. Defeating the northern heavenly venerate was as easy as lifting a finger. Yishuan also made his move. He couldn't drag this on any longer. He didn't say anything else. His expression was abnormally calm as he also blasted out a move. Cosmic Creation Palm. Two gigantic golden hands clashed violently in the middle of the primal chaos, causing the entire primal chaos to sublimate. In an instant, the primal chaos erupted. Two peerless palm techniques collided with each other at this instant. This is a clash between half-step rulers. It's too shocking. In the fortune world, many people who were paying attention to this scene felt their hearts tremble. Yishuan's expression became increasingly indifferent. He slightly shook his arm and broke the palm of Heavenless Demon Monarch. Use your full strength. It's impossible for you to defeat me with this level of attack. Yishuan said indifferently. Many heavenly venerables were trembling in their hearts. Such a terrifying attack could easily injure them, but it wasn't Heavenless Demon Monarch's full strength. In fact, it wasn't even Yishuan's full strength. You're forcing me into a dead end. Heavenless Demon Monarch's expression was equally cold, perhaps even colder. Yishuan wanted him to go all out. In fact, it was tantamount to asking him to die. If he went all out, he wouldn't be able to suppress the injuries in his body. At that time, his injuries would worsen, and it would take his life. Therefore, he said that Yishuan was forcing him into a dead end. I want to force you into a dead end. Didn't you prepare a coffin for yourself before you came? I'm a coffin bearer. Yishuan indifferently said, if you really force me into a dead end, you will definitely die. You won't be able to live. Heavenless Demon Monarch said coldly. Yishuan said indifferently, what's there to be afraid of? Dragging two half-step sovereigns down with me sounds like my name will be known throughout the ages. Moreover, you will definitely die today. The one who will die will definitely be you. Since you won't go all out first, let me do it. Yishuan took a step forward, and countless sword lights splashed out from his body. The terrifying sword momentum caused the entire primal chaos to tremble. It gave him a kind of sharp might in the midst of transcendence. Slash primal chaos. Yishuan roared and slashed down with slash primal chaos. His injuries instantly worsened. This was what Heavenless Demon Monarch had said. Forcing him to go all out would result in his own death. Yishuan's current situation was actually similar to Heavenless Demon Monarch's. Both of them were burdened by their injuries and didn't dare to go all out. If they did, they would definitely die. If it was Half Moon Immortal Monarch, he would definitely be dead. Heaven and earth were collapsing, and everything was under this sword. The entire primal chaos lit up, and everyone was dumbfounded by this sword. Damn it! Heavenless Demon Monarch raged. Yishuan was using himself as the price to force him to his death. You're still too inexperienced to force me to my death. Heavenless Demon Monarch's aura soared to the extreme, making him look like a peerless demon god standing in the primal chaos. A kind of terrifying power was boiling on his body. It then evolved into a kind of matchless magic, forming a torrent that bombarded Yishuan. Rumble. A terrifying collision erupted between the two, and both of them vomited blood at the same time. In the previous collision, neither of them gained the upper hand. On the contrary, both of them suffered a huge loss. Both of them were injured, and this was it. However, before Heavenless Demon Monarch could catch his breath, Yishuan actually pounced forward with the Sword of Destiny. Old thief, how do you feel after receiving my sword? Let's do it again. The Sword of Destiny in Yishuan's hand blossomed with a terrifying light, as if a heroic spirit was resurrected, and it became extremely terrifying. At this moment, his aura seemed to be even sharper than before. Crazy, this must be a lunatic. Granny Ghost on the Epic Ghost ship saw this scene, and the wrinkles on her face couldn't help but twitch. In her eyes, Yishuan had become extremely dangerous since he would rather perish together with the enemy in order to kill Heavenless Demon Monarch. The arrogant were afraid of the reckless, and the reckless were afraid of the reckless. Right now, Yishuan was the reckless one. Under such circumstances, whoever went against him would be unlucky. If she was in his shoes, she wouldn't be any better. The face of the Lord of Divine Abilities, who was facing off against the primal chaos overlord, fell. An existence like him didn't fear any experts, but he was afraid of people who would drag him down with them, even if it meant risking their lives. The chaos overlord wasn't surprised, or it could be said that he had already seen it. Back when Yi Shiwen didn't have this strength, he was only equivalent to an ordinary peak celestial master. Yi Shiwen could even kill his incarnation and his disciple easily. When did he really see Yi Shiwen being afraid? When he was an enemy, he only felt an incomparable headache, but as an ally, he felt a sense of security. Crazy, crazy. Don't drag me along if you want to die. Heavenless Demon Monarch was a little incoherent at this moment. Yi Shiwen was risking his life, and he wanted to drag him along with him. However, he had no choice. If he didn't want to be killed by Yi Shiwen's /primal chaos, he could only go all out. Demonization of the world. Heavenless Demon Monarch roared, and directly blasted 3 attacks. One attack shook the mountains and rivers. One attack destroyed the world, and one attack destroyed the era. I won't die. The one who will die is you. Yi Shiwen shouted, and the sword of destiny instantly collided with Heavenless Demon Monarch's demonization of the world. In an instant, the chaos collapsed, and the earth cracked. The attacks of both sides had exceeded the understanding of many people. Bang! Bang! The terrifying power of both sides added to each other's body. Heavenless Demon Monarch retreated again and again, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. His injuries became more serious, and he didn't have any more power to suppress his internal injuries. Under such circumstances, his injuries were deteriorating too quickly. Yi Shiwen was also bombarded and retreated, and even some fragments of his internal organs were spat out of his mouth. His face was deathly pale, and he looked incomparably miserable. His injuries weren't old injuries, but caused by the current situation. I'll kill you. Yi Shiwen rushed forward again, disregarding his injuries and letting them worsen. He wanted to kill Heavenless Demon Monarch alive. Heavenless Demon Monarch roared again, and also erupted with terrifying strength, and fiercely fought with Yi Shiwen. Bang! 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 A terrifying collision sound broke out in the chaos. The two figures in the chaos were striking out with world-destroying power every minute and every second. It was extremely terrifying. In the end, the two of them didn't even need to defend. They must let each other bleed in the chaos and kill each other to the point of madness. Every attack directly bombarded the other's body, and they wanted to kill each other. Heavenless Demon Monarch had the body of a half-step sovereign realm expert, and was extremely difficult to kill. Yi Shiwen was wearing the Good Fortune treasure robe, so it was also extremely difficult to kill him. However, in this situation where they let go of each other, blood kept flowing out, and the chaos was filled with the blood of the two, turning into a vast ocean. Everyone who was paying attention knew that the two of them were committing suicide. It was a suicidal attack. The question was who would be the first to persevere. In reality, there was no difference. Even if one of them died first, the other would only die a little later. Under this kind of suicidal attack, the injuries that could bury them were already buried, and it was just a matter of when they would erupt. Bang! It was another terrifying collision. The two figures collided against each other in the primal chaos. The terrifying light engulfed everything, causing everything to sink into endless chaos. Everyone's eyes widened because they knew that this was the final blow that would decide the outcome of the battle. It was the final blow that both sides could unleash. After that, no new attack erupted, and this was already the deciding blow. The endless light dissipated, and only Heavenless Demon Monarch was left coughing out blood. Half of his body had been directly chopped off, and even his heavenly master's recovery ability couldn't recover. He could only wait for death. I didn't expect that I would have such a day, and that I would actually be dragged to death by a heavenly master. His smile was incomparably tragic, and as soon as his voice fell, his body suddenly exploded, and he died in an instant. Chapter 3780. Heavenless Demon Monarch had fallen. A peerless powerhouse that had shaken several eras had fallen in front of everyone. He had been beaten to death just like that, without any tricks or tricks. Countless experts of the devil race were wailing. A half-step sovereign realm expert was extremely precious. Even for a legitimate epic like the martial epic, it was extremely precious. Furthermore, for an ancient epic like the demonic Tao epic, which was already past its prime, it could be said that once one died, there wouldn't be a second. For the ancient era, a half-step ruler rank expert was an existence akin to deterrence. Now that the heavenless demon monarch had fallen, the demonic Tao epic would have to tuck its tail between its legs. More importantly, without the heavenless demon monarch to lead them in this feast, it would be impossible for them to get a share of the spoils. If one wanted to obtain more things in the banquet of the martial epic's destruction, aside from how much effort one put in, the most important factor was one's strength. Whether one had a half-step sovereign leading them or not was an extremely important indicator. Now that the heavenless demon monarch was dead, their benefits naturally plummeted. The only consolation was that they still had the heaven-splitting demonic axe this time. The Fortune God dynasty's experts also fell silent. Yi Shiwen had killed the heavenless demon monarch in one fell swoop, but he had also bled in the primal chaos, and his body had exploded. It wasn't like before. Every time his body exploded, he could quickly reassemble. But this time, his body did not reassemble in the primal chaos. In order to kill the heavenless demon monarch, Yi Shiwen had paid the most painful price. He had even died together with his opponent. They all fell silent. Yi Shiwen could no longer fight, but no one blamed him. As a heavenly venerate, he had done his best to bring away 2 half-step sovereigns. Even the primal chaos overlord could not bring away a single half-step sovereign. The Eastern heavenly venerate has already done his best. Are we going to let him bleed for nothing? A heavenly venerate roared, his voice echoing in the sky. Right, fight it out with them, chase them out. If they want to destroy the martial epic, they will have to do it over my dead body. Fight, fight to the death. The many experts of the ancient epics had not expected that Yi Shiwen's death in the primal chaos would not cause the martial epic to lose all hope and crumble. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen's death caused them to erupt. Yi Shiwen's death also destroyed the last trace of luck in their hearts. This time, it was the war that would end the era. They couldn't stay out of it at all. They could either repel the strong enemy or die here. You overestimate yourself. With just your martial epic will not be able to escape this calamity. Only death awaits you. Unfortunately, the strength of the entire martial epic was far inferior to that of the armies of the ancient epics. They were still forced to retreat, and the situation never improved. They launched attacks again and again, only to be annihilated again and again. Experts fell one after another. Blood dyed the earth red, and the flames of war ignited every piece of land under the sky. Everyone was doing their best to kill. At this moment, in the primal chaos, after killing the heavenless demon monarch, a huge hand instantly grabbed his corpse. After a long time, a human figure finally condensed in the primal chaos. Who else could it be but Yi Shiwen? The few supreme half-step sovereigns in the primal chaos saw this scene, but none of them paid any attention to him. They could even feel his vitality fading away. He had fought with all his might and dragged 2 half-step sovereigns to their deaths. He had done his best, but at the same time, he was dragging himself closer and closer to death. His injuries from the 2 supremes had not healed yet. Instead, because of a series of intense battles, they had worsened. Yi Shiwen was dead for sure. There could not be any more miracles. As for his body's reconstruction, in their opinion, it was just a struggle to catch his breath. What a pity. If he could mature, he might be my whetstone. It's good that he is dead now. If he doesn't die, it will not be easy to destroy the martial epic. The half-moon immortal lord looked at Yi Shiwen from afar, in the depths of the primal chaos. This was the first time he had a whole new level of respect for Yi Shiwen. Even though Yi Shiwen was only a heavenly venerable, he could kill 2 half-step sovereigns by himself. Such shocking combat strength was enough for him to have a whole new level of respect for him. But in the end, he was a dead man. On the epic ghost ship, Granny Ghost looked at Yi Shiwen with greed in her eyes. Whether it was Yi Shiwen's fortuitous encounter, the destiny sword, or the good fortune robe, she coveted them all. Yi Shiwen, a heavenly venerable, could rely on these two supreme treasures to gain the strength to perish together with them. It was easy to imagine how important they were. But she could not leave now. She still had to control the epic ghost ship to suppress the good fortune universe map. The half-moon immortal lord quickly looked at the sky-sealing great formation. In the center of the sky-sealing great formation was the incarnation of the heavenly Tao. The divine chains of the nomological laws were getting tighter and tighter, sinking into the flesh. Blood sprayed in the primal chaos. He revealed a smile. Success was right in front of him. The martial epic's heavenly Tao was struggling fiercely, but there was no way to escape. He could only be firmly trapped within. Not far from the sky-sealing grand array, the four Dominator Tao treasures were also exchanging blows with astonishing power. The Lord of Divine Abilities, the heaven-splitting demonic axe, and the epic ghost ship. The three Dominator Tao treasures were suppressing the Good Fortune Universe map. Although the Good Fortune Universe map was very powerful and had the support of the Heavenly Tao, it had no chance of winning against the three Dominator Tao treasures. It was being beaten back repeatedly. It could not save the martial epic's Heavenly Tao. Thump, thump, thump. Loud heartbeats could be heard throughout the entire chaos space. With every heartbeat, the entire chaos space seemed to be pulsating. It looked extremely strange. This strange situation attracted the attention of the half-step dominators. When they looked over, they discovered that the source of the strange heartbeats was none other than Yi Shiwen's direction. What's that? When the half-step sovereigns looked at Yi Shiwen, they realized that his body was brimming with life energy. It wasn't like what they thought it would be, that Yi Shiwen would slowly lose his vitality as time went by. Then, he would be killed by the terrifying injuries. On the contrary, as time passed, Yi Shiwen's life force was gradually increasing. With every heartbeat, Yi Shiwen's life force clearly became denser. His aura had also become slightly stronger. He's not dead. All the half-step dominators widened their eyes. Clearly, they were very surprised. Yi Shiwen did not die with the Heavenless Demon King as they had expected. On the contrary, he was using some unknown secret technique to gradually become stronger and more terrifying. He's transforming. He's actually becoming stronger. What kind of monster is this kid? The Chaos Overlord's eyes widened. Clearly, he did not expect Yi Shiwen to become so terrifying. After such a huge battle and such injuries, even he would not be able to escape death. Yet, Yi Shiwen was still able to go against the odds. However, he was pleasantly surprised. Yi Shiwen's survival was too important to their situation. Although Yi Shiwen had directly killed two half-step dominators, there were still three opponents. Even if the half-moon immortal lord could not leave the sky-sealing great formation, just Ghost Granny and the mystic ability lord were enough to completely suppress him. In fact, it was not impossible for the half-moon immortal lord to die. If Yi Shiwen could successfully break through and resurrect, the entire situation would be reversed. Damn it, he's still not dead. Ghost Granny's eyes were like two balls of ghostly fire. They were filled with terrifying killing intent. She could not wait to kill Yi Shiwen. Since you are not willing to die, I will send you on your way. Ghost Granny laughed sinisterly. Then, from the epic ghost ship, a ghostly claw pierced through the chaos and grabbed at Yi Shiwen. She did not care what kind of strange things Yi Shiwen had. In any case, there would be no more problems if she killed him. Boom! The entire chaos exploded. In an instant, chaotic energy overflowed, and everything within a radius of thousands of miles exploded. One could imagine the power of Ghost Granny's attack. She simply wanted to kill Yi Shiwen and not leave him any way out. Even a peak heavenly venerate would be seriously injured or even die if they were hit by this attack, let alone Yi Shiwen in his current state. However, everyone saw that Yi Shiwen's body had been crushed by this claw attack after the chaotic energy had calmed down a little. However, he hadn't died. Instead, he had reconstructed his body. Moreover, his life aura had become even more powerful. Damn it, how can this be? Granny Ghost let out a ghostly howl and exploded again. Another huge, ghostly claw slashed down viciously. Boom! The entire chaos surged again. However, when the chaotic energy calmed down, everyone realized that Yi Shiwen was still alive. His aura was still growing stronger and more terrifying. Damn it, die for me! Ghost Granny was furious. She was thoroughly enraged. Terrifying attacks fell upon her again and again. They swept across instantly, almost smashing the chaos into pieces. Boom! 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 No one knew how many times she bombarded indiscriminately before only a determined voice was heard. You should have fought enough. Chapter 3781. Bang! Granny Ghost's claw was completely blocked by a hand. It exploded in the air. This is impossible. The half-step sovereigns all stared with wide eyes. Before their horrified gazes, Yi Shiwen stood up from the primal chaos. His exploded body had actually recovered. He can still defy the heavens. The primal chaos overlord's eyes widened in disbelief. He felt a myriad of emotions in his heart. He simply did not know what to say. Yi Shiwen could actually defy the heavens and resurrect. How is this possible? The Mystic Ability Master was also in disbelief. I know of many nirvanic rebirth methods in this world, but no matter which one it is impossible for him to recover under such circumstances. Even the half-moon immortal lord's eyes flashed with disbelief. Intense killing intent flashed in his eyes. He could only feel at ease after killing Yi Shiwen. A dead Fortune Divine Dynasty's East Heavenly Venerate could make him admire him, but a living Fortune Divine Dynasty's East Heavenly Venerate only made him want to kill him. If he did not finish off such a person, the consequences would be unimaginable. Granny Ghost's eyes widened. Although she could not say that she had used her full strength, that kind of attack could even kill a peak Heavenly Venerate. However, not only did Yi Shiwen not die, but he even came back to life. What was going on? It's the East Venerate. The East Venerate is not dead. He came back to life. This is great. The East Venerate is alive. We still have hope. The heavens will not end the martial epic. Countless voices in the fortune world began to cheer up. Yi Shiwen's death had made them incomparably sad and indignant. But now that Yi Shiwen was actually still alive, their spirits were instantly lifted. Perhaps things weren't that bad yet. If Yi Shiwen could fight and rescue the trapped heavenly Tao, then there was still hope for the martial epic. Many experts from the ancient epics could also tell that although they were currently defeating the martial epic, it would take a long time to conquer the martial epic. It was impossible to do so in a short time. Unless they could destroy the martial epic's heavenly Tao and cause the entire fortune realm to collapse, they could quickly end the war. Therefore, they placed all their hopes on the sky-sealing Grand Array. But now, Yi Shiwen's resurrection had allowed the Fortune Divine Dynasty to have another peerless master. This made the situation of the Seal Heaven Array even more difficult to understand. They also knew that although their armies had come, the ones that would truly decide the outcome of the battle were the few battlefields in the primal chaos. Those few people could decide the survival of the entire martial epic. When one's strength reached a certain level, a single person was enough to decide the situation of the world. In a sense, having more people was useless. So that's how it is. Without destruction, there can't be construction. Without destruction, there can't be construction. Only by putting yourself in a dead end will there be a way out. Yi Shiwen stood firmly in the middle of the chaos. Although he hadn't transformed into a law image, it seemed as if he was indomitable at this moment. At this moment, he was still immersed in the final stages of comprehension. He was using the Phoenix Nirvana technique. As the son-in-law of the Phoenix race, he had seen all the great techniques in the world when he became an emperor. Naturally, he knew the Phoenix race's Nirvana technique. It was just that he had never used it before because no one had been able to force him to that point. But at the same time, he was very clear that the Phoenix Nirvana technique wasn't guaranteed to succeed. In fact, the success rate of the Phoenix Nirvana technique wasn't very high. Moreover, he had fought with 2 half-step sovereigns and dragged them to their deaths. In the end, he himself had fallen into a dead end. It was impossible to reincarnate to this stage by relying on the Phoenix's Nirvana technique alone. In fact, it would basically fail. The Phoenix's Nirvana technique was not omnipotent. Otherwise, the Phoenix would be an immortal race. There was no need to cultivate it all. In fact, the success rate wasn't high. In the end, Yi Shiwen had comprehended the path to half-step sovereign. Without destruction, there can't be construction. Yi Shiwen had long understood the great principle of without destruction, there can't be construction. In fact, it was recorded in many of the Fortune Divine Monarch's ancient records. However, understanding the principle was one thing, and truly comprehending it was another. At the final moment, he truly comprehended the principle of without destruction. There can't be construction. Even if a heavenly venerate surpassed the limits and could change the laws as they pleased, they were still within the scope of the heavenly Tao. If one wanted to become a half-step sovereign, the first thing one had to do was to surpass the heavenly Tao. One couldn't be bound by it. Even a powerful epic like the martial epic couldn't occupy the entire primal chaos. In fact, it could only occupy a corner of the primal chaos. After truly transcending the heavenly Tao, one's strength would rise to the next level. One could even draw the power he needed from the primal chaos. That was a higher realm, but without destruction, there can't be construction. If he hadn't been forced into a dead end, he wouldn't have chosen to take this step. Fortunately, he had succeeded in the end. His original injuries had been terrifying, but that was only for a heavenly venerate. However, after his comprehension of the great path nomological laws had risen to another level, this bit of injury was nothing to him. However, this resurrection had damaged his vitality. Cultivation was the foundation. Even if he comprehended it and broke through, he couldn't improve it immediately. Fortunately, he was prepared. His hand grabbed at the void, and immediately, the matured world tree fruit that had been watered with the blood essence of 2 half-step sovereigns fell into his hand. He swallowed it. In an instant, this world tree fruit turned into a surging power that flowed into his body. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying aura was released from his body. Every improvement was so obvious that it shook the entire primal chaos. The entire primal chaos was shaken by his terrifying aura when he broke through. His breakthrough was so smooth that even the primal chaos overlord envied him. While he was surprised, he was also very envious. When he broke through to half-step sovereign, he had a narrow escape. Although he was born as an innate deity and had a noble foundation, he had spent a lot of time and energy to break through to this step. Under the suppression of the heavenly Taos, he still had a narrow escape. To the heavenly Taos, half-step sovereigns had to surpass their control. Although it was only half-step, it was already disgraceful. Anyone who broke through would suffer the wrath of the heavenly Taos. Since ancient times, the number of half-step sovereigns in the martial epoch could be counted on one hand. However, there were 100 times more peak heavenly venerates. One could easily imagine how many people were trapped in this peak heavenly venerate realm, unable to advance further. Now, Yishuan broke through so smoothly. Although he was only a peak heavenly venerate, he would suffer the suppression of the heavenly Taos under normal circumstances. This kind of person had the power to destroy the world. The heavenly Taos had no conscience, but all living things feared such an existence. The will of all living things was the will of the world. So, once one broke through, they would suffer the punishment of the world. But now, the world was destroyed, the world was falling, and the heavenly Taos were trapped. Who could restrict him? However, even if the heavenly Taos were still around, they would not do anything to Yishuan. Yishuan killed 2 half-step sovereigns in succession, making a great contribution to the martial epic. Naturally, the heavenly merits could help Yishuan resist the calamity. Yishuin turned the tide at such a time. All living things in the world had to thank him for his kindness. The will of the heavens was the will of the people. Since the will of the people was like this, the will of the heavens would not do anything to him. This reminded him of the fortune creation heavenly monarch. Back then, the fortune creation heavenly monarch established the fortune divine dynasty and established a new order in the chaotic world. He had made great contributions to the martial epic. Furthermore, he had repelled the invasions of the ancient epic's half-step sovereigns many times, who knew how many merits he had, allowing him to easily enter the sovereign realm and become the ruler of the martial epic. The fortune creation heavenly monarch's success allowed the primal chaos overlord to see another possibility. He could use the will of the people to break through the restrictions of the heavenly Taos. Back then, the world was in chaos. Chaos was the main factor, so the people wanted to rule. The appearance of the fortune creation heavenly monarch was to cater to the will of the heavens, replacing chaos with order. Hence, the fortune creation heavenly monarch opened up a prosperous era for countless years. Now, Yishuin seemed to have come into being. When the world was falling apart, he turned the tide. It was the will of the heavens. Originally, this was what the primal chaos overlord wanted to do. He would rather be enemies with many half-step sovereigns. Why? Wasn't it to seize the will of the heavens? However, who could have imagined that Yishuin would appear out of nowhere and seize the position of the son of the heavens? After this battle, if the martial epic could be preserved, Yishuin would definitely be the strongest person in the world. Naturally, the primal chaos overlord would receive many benefits. However, compared to the benefits Yishuin obtained, it paled in comparison. Even if he was unwilling, he had to admit that Yishuin had put in a lot of effort in this battle. Yishuin had risked his life several times. Yet he still could not defeat the divine ability master, while Yishuin had killed 2 half-step sovereigns. Yishuin's accomplishments rendered everyone speechless. However, even if there were benefits, it would be after the battle. The most important thing now was to break the sky-sealing great formation and release the heavenly Tao. This was the most important thing. Everything else was secondary. If they could not break the sky-sealing great formation, all of their plans would be a joke. Meanwhile, Yishuin's frantic rise shocked the half-moon immortal lord and the others. No, they absolutely could not allow him to continue like this. At this rate, Yishuin would advance further and become a true threat to them. He would no longer be like before, where he could only drag down violent, venerable, and heavenless demon monarch to death. Half-moon immortal lord, I'll go kill him. We can't let him continue breaking through. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Granny Ghost hurriedly transmitted her voice. Sure, leave the epic ghost ship behind to help me suppress the creation universe painting. Go back quickly and kill him. The half-moon immortal lord said. At the very least, buy me some time. I just need some time. Before him, the martial epic's heavenly Tao was already covered in wounds. It would not be able to hold on for much longer. Chapter 3782. The half-moon immortal lord no longer wanted to kill Yishuin immediately. 2 half-step sovereigns had died at Yishuin's hands just like that. If these half-step sovereigns were in peak condition, he would not be so worried. But these half-step sovereigns were either near the end of their lifespans or severely injured. They all had fatal weaknesses. These weaknesses had turned into fatal weaknesses in front of Yishuin right now. Now, he just had to wait a little longer. When a martial epic's heavenly Tao fell, Yishuin would not be able to reverse the situation no matter how powerful he was. What Yishuin lacked the most was time. Conversely, the half-moon immortal lord also lacked time. He never dreamed that he would be forced into such a state by a heavenly venerable. This was a great humiliation. All right, I'll go kill him. I can't let him grow. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Granny Ghost's expression was extremely grave. Her eyes were filled with killing intent as she looked at Yishuin. In a short time, Yishuin had gone from overestimating himself to a huge threat. Whoosh! In an instant, Granny Ghost had already traversed through the primal chaos, crossing hundreds of millions of miles with one step, and directly arrived in front of Yishiwen. After arriving in front of Yishiwen, she did not say a word. Boundless ghost energy erupted from her body, and all kinds of laws of the ghost, Tao, era, danced in the air. This was a shocking secret technique that she had created herself. Countless ghost energy condensed on her body, and then turned into a shocking calamity, all of which was added to Yishiwen's body. This was the embodiment of great magic power and mystique. It directly turned into a heavenly tribulation to kill someone. Yishiwen also opened his eyes at this moment. Behind him, countless golden lights directly erupted. The good fortune treasure robe directly emerged and protected him within it. The good fortune's treasure clothes seemed to have transformed into a world in order to protect Yishiwen. Rumble. Granny Ghost's palm landed on the good fortune robe. In an instant, it destroyed the good fortune robe's barrier. Then, it landed on the good fortune robe, leaving a huge palm print on it. Thump, thump, thump. Yishiwen retreated again and again. He had forcefully taken the blow, and blood was spilling out of the corner of his mouth. Granny Ghost's strength was tyrannical and terrifying. Even though Sword Venerable's avatar had fused with the destiny of the East region, it still wouldn't be able to stop her for long. Don't think that you can contend with half-step sovereigns just because you have the protection of the good fortune treasure robe. You're still far from it. I killed your incarnation before, and now I'm going to kill your real body. It's perfect. Granny Ghost laughed sinisterly, and her eyes were like ghost flames, flashing with a frightening light. Want to kill me? Then you better be prepared to be killed by me, just like Violent Corpse Venerable and Heavenless Demon Monarch. Yishiwen couldn't help but sneer. The injuries on his body had healed in the blink of an eye. If it was before, he didn't know how many times he would need to heal such injuries. But now, he was enlightened and had a breakthrough. It was different from before. However, the expression on Grandma Ghost's face had become even more indifferent. She had discovered that Yishiwen's aura hadn't weakened even though he had been hit by her palm. On the contrary, it was getting stronger. It seemed as if he was telling everyone that he was making a breakthrough, and this process couldn't be reversed. With just you, I'm not the same as them. Granny Ghost sneered, and her hands began to form seals. Originally, she could use any kind of secret technique at will, but now, she needed to form seals to use it. It was obvious how terrifying the secret technique that was about to be released was. In the chaos, the ghost energy was also increasing at an astonishing speed. Since ancient times, there hadn't been such a terrifying and powerful existence. Yishiwen didn't stop her, because every time he delayed, his strength would increase by a bit. This kind of delay was also advantageous to him. In the end, he still had to rely on his own strength to compete with her. Suddenly, in the chaos, a boundless sea of blood surged out, and a fishy smell spread in the chaos. The sea of blood spread in the chaos, and it was unknown whether it was tens of millions of miles or hundreds of millions of miles. It was so far that one couldn't see the end of it. Above the sea of blood, a gigantic, ancient palace appeared. Above this palace, there were two big words written, Yama Palace. Yishiwen couldn't help but widen his eyes, because he instantly remembered the ancient legends that he had heard countless years ago. Underworld, the 18 levels of hell, Yama King, and so on. It was only later that he embarked on the path of cultivation, and even more so, he saw through life and death, and achieved the Great Way. Only then did he realize that the so-called hell, the so-called Yama, were just legends. Even the Demon King's expedition against the Underworld back then was only proven to be a battle between two emperors. There was no such thing as true reincarnation in the world, and there was no such thing as the Underworld in the real sense of the myths and legends. No matter what kind of creature it was death. Even if there were some creatures whose souls didn't perish due to some coincidences and turned into malicious ghosts, that was only a rare phenomenon. Not all creatures could turn into malicious ghosts and survive in a different form, let alone reincarnate. His parents in his previous life were dead, and even with his current spiritual power, He couldn't find them and resurrect them. This was the reality. It was just that for countless years, there were constantly great figures who tried to push the world to complete that kind of reincarnation and rebuild that legendary reincarnation. But when he saw this Yama palace, suddenly countless conjectures rushed into his mind. Could it be that the underworld and the netherworld and the myriad worlds are not the source of the reincarnation legend? He had always thought that the reincarnation legend of the 18 levels of hell and so on spread in the myriad worlds originated from the underworld and the netherworld. But after thinking about it, he felt that it was not only the myriad worlds that had legends about reincarnation. In fact, there were also many such legends in the fortune realm. So what was the source of these reincarnations? Could it be the ghost epic? That's right. Your guess is completely correct. In countless eras, the source of all reincarnation came from our ghost epic. Granny Ghost said coldly. The creator of the reincarnation Tao was none other than the supreme ruler of our ghost epic, the heavenly Lord Yama. These words were deeply engraved in Yishuan's mind. In fact, he only knew some very ordinary things about the ghost era. However, why didn't he know anything about the existence of the heavenly Lord Yama if he really was a ruler-level existence? But there was no doubt that if such an existence really existed, he must be a supreme figure not inferior to the fortune realm heavenly Lord. In the past, the heavenly Lord Yama saw that the world was constantly reincarnating and all living beings were suffering, so he wanted to open up an eternal reincarnation. He wanted to be able to reincarnate continuously within an era and not have to pay the price of the great destruction of the world to complete a reincarnation. Granny Ghost spoke unhurriedly, but the yin luo jian above the sea of blood was becoming more and more solid. She was stalling for time, and Yishuan could see this. But now, it was definitely not just Granny Ghost who was stalling for time. But it's a pity that he failed. Granny Ghost sighed. Man proposes, but God disposes. With the strength of one person, there was no way to contend with the reincarnation Tao of the universe's chaos. Otherwise, there would be no later era like yours. Yishuan seemed to be able to see the voice of a majestic figure trying to save the world through these words. With the strength of one person, he was trying to change the fate of the reincarnation of an era. How terrifying was this plan? One must pay a painful price for going against God's will. Yishuan said faintly. In front of him, the aura of the Yama Palace was becoming more and more terrifying, and the boundless blood sea was also spreading, becoming even more terrifying. It even spread into the fortune realm. Well, even if I let you die now, I will let you die in peace. This move is called the 10 Yama Palaces. In front of Yishuan, the Yama Palace had finally completely formed and emitted a monstrous aura. It was very terrifying. From within the Yama Palace, 10 figures walked out. Yishuan looked at them and could see their identities. King Qingguang, King Chujiang, King Song, King Wuguan, King Yinluo, King Bianxing, King Taishan, King Dushi, King Pingding, and King Chakra. Each of these 10 people had an incomparably terrifying aura, and they were actually no less than half-step sovereigns. This is a supreme technique created by the Yama Lord. Back then, the Yama Lord wanted to create an era of reincarnation with himself as the master to manage the world's reincarnation. At that time, his incarnation, the 10 Yama Palaces, helped him manage the world. Each of these 10 Yama Palaces is no less powerful than me at my peak. You shouldn't have let me use it completely. Today is the day you die. Granny Ghost grinned, and there was a hint of pride on her face. Such a technique was indeed earth-shattering, and no one could stop it. Even she wasn't completely confident that she could use it, so she talked to stall for time. She thought very highly of Yishuan and would never underestimate him again. This time he must die. Yishuan laughed heartily. Do you think you're the only one who is stalling for time? If the Yama Lord used this technique, I believe that each of the 10 Yama Palaces has the strength of a peak half-step sovereign. But you used it? It's just a phantom, an illusion. Let me shatter your delusion. As Yishuan spoke, the aura on his body suddenly erupted, and the entire primal chaos boiled. In an instant, a terrifying power surged out of his body, and he became extremely dangerous. He finally broke through to the ninth realm. Chapter 3783. After breaking through to the ninth realm, Yi Shiwen's aura was more than 10 times stronger. It wasn't just a breakthrough in the heavenly venerate realm, but a breakthrough that surpassed heavenly venerates. Yi Shiwen's combat prowess had truly surpassed peak heavenly venerates and reached the half-step sovereign realm. But now, the Yama Kings of the 10 halls had surrounded him. Each of the Yama Kings of the 10 halls possessed unimaginably terrifying strength. Ordinary peak heavenly venerates would die if they met any one of them. There was no other possibility. What's the point of having more people? In the past, it might have been useful. But now? Yi Shiwen sneered. Although all of this was within his plans, even he didn't know where his upper limit was. Furthermore, he hadn't completely digested the world tree fruit, and his strength was still rising. He wanted to know where his limit was, and the Yama Kings of the 10 halls were the first whetstone. If Heavenly Yama Monarch were to use the 10 Yama Palaces Yama Kings, then each of the 10 Yama Kings would be a genuine half-step sovereign realm expert. However, Granny Ghost herself was only a half-step sovereign realm expert. How could she be compared to Heavenly Yama Monarch? You sure talk big. Granny Gue sneered and formed a hand seal. Suddenly, the Yama Kings of the 10 halls seemed to come back to life. Everyone's aura expanded wildly. The 10 half-step sovereigns shocked the entire primal chaos. Even the half-moon immortal lord's eyes widened. He didn't care about these old fellows at all, feeling that they were inferior to him. Yi Shiwen could kill 2 juniors consecutively, so how powerful could they be? However, Granny Gue's move made him understand a principle. None of the half-step sovereigns were simple characters. However, these people were old and injured. If they were at their peak, they wouldn't be easy to deal with. Inside the Fortune Divine Dynasty, many experts kept quiet. A single half-step sovereign realm expert was terrifying enough, not to mention 10 half-step sovereign realm experts. Even though they were formed from spirit techniques, just looking at them was enough to suffocate people. Why is the fate of our martial epic so full of misfortune? Eastern Heavenly Venerate, you must hold on. Yi Shiwen sneered when he saw the 10 kings of hell surrounding him. Then I'll make fun of you first. Yi Shiwen took a step and rushed into the midst of the Yama Kings of the 10 palaces. A figure immediately pounced on him. It was the Chakra King of the 10 palaces. The Chakravarti King used a heaven-defying technique right from the start. Behind him, there was a huge wheel. This wheel was an immortal treasure. Every time it rotated, the heavens and earth would change color. Its power was boundless. This wheel directly blasted towards Yi Shiwen, and the primal chaos began to rotate. Boom! A terrifying scene appeared with a loud bang. 6 paths of reincarnation fist, human realm Tao. Yi Shiwen blasted his fist out. The red dust billowed and soared. In an instant, it had already traversed the entire primal chaos. Yi Shiwen's 6 paths of reincarnation fist pierced through the entire wheel and smashed it into pieces on the spot. The Chakravarti King, who was standing in front of him, was unable to react at all. He was hit by the punch, and his body was sent flying like a meteor. 1. Yi Shiwen let out a long roar and pounced on him again. His second target was King Chujiang, who had just pounced on him and had yet to react. King Chujiang did not expect Yi Shiwen to be able to finish off the Chakravarti King so quickly. This time, Yi Shiwen did not use his fist. Instead, he directly slashed down with his sword. King Chujiang did not react at all. Yi Shiwen was too strong. When the Sword of Destiny slashed down, the power was even more terrifying than when Yi Shiwen needed to use his full strength to slash down. 2. Yi Shiwen's speed was too fast. He actually killed 2 of the Yama Kings of the 10 palaces in succession. Damn it! Granny Ghost was controlling the Yama Kings of the 10 palaces from afar. After Yi Shiwen's breakthrough, his strength was much stronger than before. Although Yi Shiwen had the strength to threaten a half-step sovereign previously, it was only possible if he used his full strength. But now, Yi Shiwen could kill 2 Yama kings in succession almost effortlessly. Such strength could be considered terrifying. Basically, he could do it freely. Killing 2 Yama kings of the 10 palaces did not take much effort at all. This time, Granny Ghost did not underestimate her opponent. The remaining 8 Yama kings surrounded Yi Shiwen tightly. All kinds of terrifying ghost-era secret techniques were released, and all of them fell on Yi Shiwen's body. Facing the Yama kings of the 10 palaces, Yi Shiwen was not afraid at all. At the same time, many hands and many heads stretched out from his body, directly blocking 8 of the Yama kings of the 10 palaces. In the beginning, the Yama kings of the 10 palaces could still combine their strength to suppress Yi Shiwen. But soon, everyone realized that Yi Shiwen, who could only constantly defend at the beginning, gradually began to have the strength to defend. In fact, he could even break the joint power of the Yama kings of the 10 palaces with 1 punch and 1 kick. If it were a real half-step sovereign besieging Yi Shiwen, then no matter how strong Yi Shiwen was, he could not truly contend against them. But this was only a manifestation of magical power. Although he used his true power to summon a portion of their Tao fruits from the distant river of time, he was not a real half-step sovereign after all. Bang! Another king of hell of the 10 palaces was sent flying. It was Emperor Song. Emperor Song's fist collided with Yi Shiwen's. In an instant, his entire arm exploded. His physical body was far inferior to Yi Shiwen's. Yi Shiwen's body was at the half-step sovereign level, and he was wearing the good fortune treasure robe, which allowed his body's strength to soar to a peerless level. However, the opponents were formed from the energy of magical powers, so their physical bodies were their biggest weakness. Therefore, Yi Shiwen had grasped this weakness from the very beginning. He hadn't allowed them to disperse. He hadn't allowed them to bombard powerful magical powers. In the beginning, they wanted to besiege Yi Shiwen and gather everyone's strength to kill Yi Shiwen. But in the end, it was Yi Shiwen who held them back, not letting them retreat out of Yi Shiwen's attack range. Yi Shiwen seemed to have some kind of sticky power. He was holding them back and didn't allow them to escape. Although they were formed from magical powers and could recover very quickly after being blown up by Yi Shiwen in midair was still very damaging to their vitality. Not good. Ghost Granny can't hold on much longer. Half Moon Immortal Lord had been paying attention to the battle between Ghost Granny and Yi Shiwen. On the surface, Yi Shiwen was still being besieged, and even the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces could recover after being blown up by Yi Shiwen. If one took a closer look, they would see that the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces' condition had clearly deteriorated. Their reactions were obviously not as fast as before. In the end, this wasn't the true resurrection of the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces, but the evolution of magical powers. Which of these magical powers didn't consume a huge amount of spiritual power? Even at peak condition, it was difficult to maintain such consumption, let alone in Ghost Granny's current state. There was no way she could hold on until then. The speed at which the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces recovered from being blown up was twice as fast as before. This was enough to prove that Ghost Granny's condition was not as good as before. Of course, ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect this difference, but Half Moon Immortal Lord did. They're all trash. They can't even stop Yi Shiwen. For the current Yi Shiwen, although the Yama Kings of the 10 Palaces were constantly being destroyed by him, they were still constantly resurrecting. However, he could still feel that the efficiency was constantly decreasing. Finally, they can't hold on much longer. Yi Shiwen felt a terrifying spiritual power surging in his body. That powerful strength was constantly increasing. As the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces continued to weaken, his strength continued to increase. Or rather, it was precisely because of his continuous increase in strength that he was able to blow up the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces in midair more and more. Even a powerful half-step ruler like Granny Ghost couldn't withstand this kind of crazy consumption. Boom! Yi Shiwen's fist blasted the body of King Yanluo into pieces. If Yi Shiwen's first punch could only heavily injure the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces, and he had to use all his strength to kill one of them, Now, Yishiwen could blow up the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces with one punch. After packing up the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces with one punch, Yishiwen rushed out of the encirclement and into the chaos. The sword of fate in his hand immediately flared up with a terrifying light. King of Hell of the 10 Palaces? I'll send you to reincarnation. The aura of the sword of fate in Yishiwen's hand became increasingly terrifying and powerful. Sever fate. With a single slash of the sword, the entire chaos was sliced into two. With this single slash, the remaining Yama Kings of the 10 Palaces pounced forth. However, in an instant, they were sliced into ashes and turned into nothingness. What? Ghost Granny couldn't help but scream when she saw the sword annihilate the King of Hell of the 10 Palaces and the monstrous sea of blood she had created. Although the sword aura didn't directly cut her body, the terrifying astral winds it brought still caused her entire face to sting. This was Yishiwen's true peak state. He had completely stabilized himself in the 9th realm. This was also the first time Yishiwen used Sever Fate after his breakthrough. If Yishiwen's Sever Fate back then was already terrifying, then the sword aura that he slashed out now was at least several times stronger. He didn't even need to use the dragon vein spiritual energy in his body. He did it with just his own strength. Powerful. Chapter 3784. At this time, Yishiwen's state had also climbed to a peak. He was so strong that the entire chaos was submerged in his blood and chi. Granny Ghost's expression changed drastically. For a ghost cultivator like her, Yishiwen's blood and chi were exuberant body cultivators were simply her nemesis. After killing the 10 Yama Kings with one sword strike, Yishiwen's aura rose to the extreme. It was like a person constantly accumulating, slowly becoming stronger and stronger until he was invincible. Yishiwen looked over at him. His blood and chi were surging like the sea. It was even more terrifying than Granny Ghost's chi sea. Previously, he had to rely on the Sword of Destiny to have the strength to fight a half-step sovereign. Now, he could do it just by relying on his own cultivation. Yishiwen seemed to have broken through the bottleneck that had been bothering him for a long time. Without this bottleneck, his strength suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. You destroyed my clone. Today, I will destroy your main body. This is the cycle of the heavenly Tao. Retribution. Yishiwen took a step forward. With just a sudden stomp, the entire chaos exploded. Countless pieces of chaos were shattered. Whoosh! In the next moment, Yishiwen had already appeared in front of Granny Ghost. With just a simple punch, a terrifying blood and chi swept out along with him, directly drowning the chaos. In an instant, a portal appeared in front of Granny Ghost. The words Gates of Hell were written on it. It directly suppressed Yishiwen's head, forcing him to give up on attacking. Bang! This portal directly suppressed down, but it could not suppress Yishiwen. Instead, Yishiwen used the power of holding up the sky with one hand to block the entire gates of hell. And his other hand was like a long spear piercing straight into the chaos, directly blasting in front of Granny Ghost. Bang! Granny Ghost was caught off guard. She did not expect Yishiwen to actually block the gates of hell with one hand. Her entire body's defense was insufficient, and she was directly blasted away. Puffed. Granny Ghost directly vomited a mouthful of old blood. Her body directly flew for tens of millions of miles before finally stopping. Her pair of ghostly fire-like eyes flickered with surprise and uncertainty. Previously, it was always the Yama Kings of the 10 Halls who fought with Yishiwen. Although she had some feelings, she did not expect Yishiwen to be so tyrannical, so strong. Granny Ghost is not his match at all. Many experts in the Fortune God dynasty exclaimed in shock. It was not just the local experts of the martial epic. Even the experts from the ancient epic were shocked. Granny Gue was extremely famous in the ancient epic. She had once accompanied the expansion of the Ghost epic, spreading her fame to countless epics. No one could stop her. In the end, the people of the martial epic did not know much. However, They had seen Granny Gue sweep through the eastern domain. Despite so many people, they could not even block her at all. She had practically beaten them up with one hand. Later on, even Sword Venerable, who had fused with the providence of the eastern region, was beaten to death. But now, after Yishiwen had made a breakthrough, he had instantly inflicted heavy damage on Grandma, Ghost with lightning speed. Our martial epic is saved. The Eastern Heavenly Venerate has clearly made another breakthrough. His combat prowess should have broken through to the half-step sovereign realm. Many people exclaimed in joy. Yishiwen's appearance had given them hope again. Perhaps the martial epic still had a chance to survive. Indeed, he has become more and more troublesome. The half-moon Immortal Lord's eyes were extremely cold. If he continues to grow, he will disrupt my plan. His eyes flickered with a horrifying, murderous intent. No one knew what kind of plan he was brewing. Yishiwen smiled faintly. Granny Ghost, just kill yourself. Save me the trouble. Today you caused countless lives in my martial epic to be plunged into misery and suffering. If you don't kill yourself, you will not be able to atone for your sins. What? You want me to kill myself? Granny Ghost shrieked, anger appearing on her face. You really think you can defeat me, but do you really think I am that easy to deal with? Since you are not willing to die, then I will send you on your way. Yishiwen attacked again. The primal chaos exploded and boundless divine radiance burst out. He stood at an extreme height and brandished the 6 paths of reincarnation fist at Granny Ghost. Granny Ghost was not to be outdone. Although she was countered, she was a half-step ruler expert. How could such a person be considered weak? Boom, boom, boom. The two of them fiercely collided. It could be said to be world-shaking and earth-shaking. Everyone in the world was shocked. Within the primal chaos, countless creatures were either destroyed or fled, not daring to approach. A battle like this was rarely seen since ancient times. In an instant, Yishiwen was surrounded by the 6 paths of reincarnation phenomenon. The 6 paths of reincarnation will suppress the heaven and earth. No living being could resist the 6 paths of reincarnation wheel's call. Meanwhile, Granny Ghost was a boundless ghost domain. She was the ruler of the ghost domain. Any living being that entered the ghost domain would die. The collision of these two boundless phenomena caused the universe to explode again and again. An intense battle broke out. The two were like two behemoths clashing fiercely. It was an extremely terrifying phenomenon. No one knew how many times they fought. Everyone could only feel that Yishiwen's 6 paths of reincarnation wheel was becoming more and more dazzling. The 6 paths of reincarnation wheel's phenomenon suppressed the entire heaven and earth. The entire primal chaos was frozen. It could not even surge out. Suddenly, there was a spurt of blood, and then a figure was sent flying. Who else could it be but Grandma Gue? Granny Ghost's shoulder was smashed by Yishiwen's fist. She was bleeding in the primal chaos. In the battle with Yishiwen just now, she had suffered a great loss. Opposite her, Yishiwen stood in the primal chaos. His aura did not weaken at all. On the contrary, it was constantly increasing. At this moment, his aura had climbed to the extreme. Granny Ghost's aura became heavier. Every time she breathed, the entire primal chaos would move up and down. In the battle, just now, Yishiwen had seriously injured her. She can no longer maintain a steady breathing. Sublimate, are you planning to be beaten to death by me in this state? Yishiwen said coldly. You will die if you force me to this step. Granny Ghost's pair of ghostly eyes flashed with a cold light. Is that so? I don't think so. Someone said so before. If he dies, you will not be an exception. Yishiwen said lightly. You are too arrogant. Granny Ghost said coldly. Arrogant? I don't think you are just a whetstone on my path. If I can't even defeat you, how can I talk about entering the supreme dominator path? Yishiwen said, well, if that's the case, then I will fulfill your wish. Granny Ghost continued to scream. It seemed that she was lifting the seals on her body. Countless layers of seals were lifted at once. Her aura suddenly rose to the extreme. After that, an incomparably terrifying might rose from her body. She no longer maintained the appearance of an old woman. Instead, she turned into a towering ghost body. She was tens of thousands of zhang tall, like a god of creation that could support the heavens and earth. She alone had the terrifying power to calm the entire primal chaos. She was too strong. Compared to before, the current Granny Ghost was more than a level stronger. However, Yi Shiwen could keenly sense that in this state, Granny Ghost's aura was clearly enhanced. Her life was flowing away at a faster rate. Previously, Granny Ghost had used countless layers of seals to stop the loss of her life force. Although she couldn't completely stop the loss of her life force, she was able to slow the process down to an acceptable level. Just like the graveyard of the evil corpse tyrant, they both had the same goal. You'll regret it if you force me to this extent. Granny Ghost let out a ghostly howl, and the entire chaos shook violently. At the same time, she blasted out a ghostly claw, which directly transformed into 100 million feet long and directly grabbed towards Yi Shiwen. It was just a simple claw, but its power was much more tyrannical than before. However, Yi Shiwen was not afraid at all. He also chanted a chant and turned into a law world that was also millions of feet tall. It was like a giant that split the sky and earth. 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Yi Shiwen also blasted out a fist and collided with Granny Ghost's ghost claw. Bang! The terrifying force of the collision caused the entire primal chaos to violently explode. The primal chaos exploded, and blazing divine light erupted. Immortal light spread out like rain. This was the strongest attack. The collision between the two had finally determined the winner. Granny Ghost let out a blood-curdling scream. Her entire arm had been blown apart. Impossible! How can my half-step sovereign body be inferior to a puny heavenly master like you? Granny Ghost clutched her shoulder and screamed again and again. Her body rapidly weakened. She was indeed powerful at her peak, but at the same time, she was also very fragile. Once she was defeated, the consequences would be unimaginable. She looked at Yi Shiwen with a bewildered expression. Even if you have released your full strength, you still have no chance of winning in front of me. Yi Shiwen sneered. He only dared to watch Granny Ghost remove the seal on her body because he had absolute confidence. As soon as her voice fell, Yi Shiwen had already appeared in front of Granny Ghost. The sword of destiny in his hand had already erupted with a dazzling light. The sword light condensed like rain, then turned into a terrifying torrent of swordsmanship and slashed down. I can't accept this. Granny Ghost screamed. If I were at my peak, I could kill you. As soon as Granny Ghost's voice fell, Yi Shiwen's sword slashed her in half. Only Yi Shiwen's cold words remained. Even if you are at your peak, you will still die. There will be no exceptions. Chapter 3785. The third one. Yi Shiwen's words were cold and faint. However, everyone who had heard them and paid attention to them felt a chill down their spine without exception. When they looked at Yi Shiwen again, they felt like they were looking at a terrifying killing god. At this moment, Yi Shiwen had risen to the ranks of monsters in everyone's eyes. This time, a total of 5 half-step sovereigns invaded the martial epic. Aside from the half-moon immortal lord, who was dealing with the martial epic's heavenly Tao and did not make a move, the other 4 half-step sovereigns arrived. Among them, the primal chaos tyrant Venerate held back the divine ability master. Yi Shiwen actually killed the remaining 3 half-step sovereigns one after another. Thinking back to the entire process, Yi Shiwen had used an absolutely impossible momentum to kill the evil corpse berserk Venerate as a heavenly Venerate. Although he had used the evil corpse berserk Venerate's lifespan nearing its end, he had still managed to kill it. Then, he had exchanged a life for a life, killing the heavenless demon lord. This in itself was already an extremely terrifying thing. No matter what happened, Yi Shiwen's fame would spread throughout the many ancient epics. As time passed, his fame would even spread to the future epics, and he would be revered by everyone. However, no one had expected Yi Shiwen to undergo a nirvanic rebirth under such circumstances, rising up again and successfully breaking through to the ninth realm. His combat prowess was even more explosive. Granny Ghost was not a match for Yi Shiwen at all. Even after she removed the seal on her body, she was still not a match for Yi Shiwen. With such combat prowess, even among half-step sovereigns, Yi Shiwen could be considered a peak existence. Now, the ancient epic still had 2 half-step rulers left. As for the martial epic side, there were only 2 half-step rulers left. At first, it was 5 against 2, but now it was 2 against 2. Yi Shiwen's counterattack had created a miracle, snatching a chance of survival for the martial epic in a hopeless situation. It's time to end this chaos. Yi Shiwen looked at the half-moon immortal lord, who was maintaining the sky-ceiling formation. The half-moon immortal lord no longer looked confident of victory. To him, being forced into such a state by a heavenly venerate was simply a great humiliation. Can the primal chaos overlord stall the lord of magical abilities? Yi Shiwen turned to look at the primal chaos overlord. No problem. Although I can't kill him, it's not a problem for me to stall him. The chaos overlord said hurriedly. This time, he finally saw the dawn of victory for the first time. His performance in this battle had never been too dazzling. No, it should be said that Yi Shiwen's performance was too amazing. He had overshadowed everyone's light. In that case, it's best that you hold him back. I'll kill him after I kill the half-moon immortal lord, Yi Shiwen said coldly. This time, no one can escape. Damn it, you little bastard. Do you really think I'm a pushover? At this time, the lord of the mysterious ability was also angry. Yi Shiwen's words clearly showed that he didn't take him seriously. This was simply going too far. Oomph. Yi Shiwen sneered. He approached the half-moon immortal lord step by step. His aura strengthened with every step he took. The half-moon immortal lord looked at Yi Shiwen with a slight frown. He understood Yi Shiwen's intention. At this moment, Yi Shiwen did not choose to take a step to his side. Instead, he chose to walk step by step. This was to accumulate momentum. Once the momentum was formed, the heavens would favor him. The might of any of his moves would multiply. This was an open scheme. If the half-moon immortal lord wanted to break out of this scheme, he had to leave the sky-ceiling formation and stop Yi Shiwen. However, once he left the sky-ceiling formation, how long could the sky-ceiling formation seal the martial epic's heavenly Tao without anyone controlling it? In other words, it was simply impossible. However, if he did not leave the sky-ceiling formation, he could only watch as Yi Shiwen finished accumulating momentum and dealt a fatal blow to him. This was a difficult choice. What an open and above-board scheme. This martial epic's Eastern Heavenly Venerate was clearly not a boorish fellow who only knew how to fight and kill. Although his fighting style was more straightforward, he was not brainless. Fellow Taoists, are you all just going to watch the show? Right now, the martial epic's heavenly Tao is about to die. Once the martial epic collapses, this feast will begin. Are you all willing to give up? The half-moon immortal lord said unhurriedly to the primal chaos, facing Yi Shiwen's relentless pressure. The half-moon immortal lord's words immediately stirred up the many experts of the martial epic. His words made many people think of even worse things. Could it be that there were more half-step sovereigns hiding in the dark and not making a move? However, when they thought up to this point, they felt that they were right. After all, the ancient epics participating in the attack on the martial epic were not just the first few. As time passed, more and more ancient epics joined in. Could the ancient epic's deployment of troops hide from the current epic's half-step sovereigns? Or perhaps these half-step sovereigns had secretly instructed them to do so. If that was the case, it was possible that there were other half-step sovereigns hiding in the dark and not making a move. Furthermore, based on the half-moon immortal lord's appearance, there was probably more than one hiding in the dark. If that was the case, the martial epic would truly be finished. Not to mention whether Yi Shiwen could defeat those half-step sovereigns or not. The most important thing was that the martial epic's heavenly Tao would not last until then. Everyone could tell that the youth formed by the martial epic's heavenly Tao was already covered in wounds. Many of his wounds were so deep that his bones were visible. Clearly, they were extremely severe. Yishuan immediately raised his guard. He did not believe that the Half-Moon Immortal Lord would do this without thinking. Half-Moon Immortal Lord, you can forget about it. They will not come. Suddenly, a cold but resolute voice came from beyond the boundless primal chaos. This is, damn it, it's you again, Qin Venerate. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord roared, his expression changing involuntarily as he suddenly thought of something. When he thought of that person who kept causing trouble for him, his expression changed involuntarily. Since he met Qin Venerate, his plan had been in trouble. Qin Venerate, you actually dare to block us? Qin Venerate, I think you're seeking death. Do you think you can block us alone? Kill him. The martial epic will definitely perish this time. Suddenly, several unrivaled auras burst out from the distant primal chaos. Each of these auras was comparable to Granny Guay's at her peak. That was the true peak, not an illusory peak like Granny Guay's, where she was not at her peak and was forced to return to her peak. These figures all roared ferociously. Clearly, the target of their roars was Qin Venerate. If you want to pass, you will have to get past me first. However, I'm afraid you don't have the ability to do so. Qin Venerate's cold voice came from the distant primal chaos. His voice was filled with incomparable confidence. Even when facing several half-step sovereigns at the same time, he did not show any fear. That Eastern Heavenly Venerate, I have a whole new level of respect for you. Although I divined your existence back then, I did not expect you to reach this step. As a Heavenly Venerate, you killed 3 half-step sovereigns in succession. You could be considered a legend. Qin Venerate's words were clearly directed at Yishuan. Only then did Yishuan recall some of the things that happened in the Myriad Heavens realm. At that time, Qin Venerate should have already divined Yishuan's appearance and made some arrangements on purpose. Later on, when Yishuan attained the Tao and became a sovereign emperor, he truly broke away from the river of fate. At that time, Qin Venerate had no way to continue divining his existence. However, it was already shocking enough. Originally, Yishuan wondered where Qin Venerate, who clearly had the strength to rival half-step sovereigns, had gone. Even after the martial epic had reached such a dangerous stage, Yishuan still did not see Qin Venerate. Now, Yishuan understood that Qin Venerate had not fled in fear of battle. Instead, he had gone to the epic battlefield to block the half-step sovereigns who had come as reinforcements from the ancient epic. As for Qin Venerate, he had left the Fortune Realm's battlefield to Yishuan and the Primal Chaos Overlord, while he went to block the half-step sovereigns who were still at their peak. In terms of difficulty, Qin Venerate was only slightly more difficult than Yishuan. However, Yishuan could not help but feel like crying when he thought of this. This Qin Venerate was really confident in himself. If he had not been able to perform the Phoenix's Nirvana rebirth, he would not have been able to block the evil corpse overlord, Granny Ghost, and Heavenless Demon Monarch. What would he have done? However, now that Qin Venerate had blocked the reinforcements from the other ancient epic's half-step sovereigns, it had created the most advantageous situation for Yishuan. Many thoughts flashed through Yishuan's mind, but his footsteps were not chaotic at all. He only looked coldly at the Half-Moon Immortal Lord. You're the last one left. This time you failed. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord finally revealed himself from the sky-ceiling formation. He slowly walked out and said coldly, I did not expect that the final plan would be foiled by your hands. You were too arrogant. Did you think that by gathering a few half-step sovereigns, you could defeat the martial epic? Our martial epic's luck is still here. Your plan will not succeed. Yishuan said, That's right. The martial epic's luck still exists. You, Qin Zun, and the Primal Chaos Tyrant Venerate actually used yourselves to stabilize the martial epic's luck, forcefully stabilizing the situation on the verge of collapse. The trap that I laid for 100,000 years will not be foiled by your hands. So you will die for sure. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord said coldly. Among the 3 of you, you are the weakest. As long as I kill you, the martial epic's luck will definitely collapse. Even the martial epic's heavenly Tao will not be able to reverse this chaotic situation. If you can do it, then give it a try. Yi Shiwen arrived before the half-moon immortal lord with one step. He raised his aura to its peak and instantly attacked. Chapter 3786. Boom! The entire primal chaos exploded in an instant. The world had collapsed under Yi Shiwen's attack. Yi Shiwen's aura reached a peak. When it erupted, it was extremely horrifying. His entire body shone with golden light. His terrifying aura carried unimaginable fluctuations as he charged at the half-moon immortal lord. Bang! When this strike landed on the half-moon immortal lord, he staggered back a few steps. Blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. Yi Shiwen's move was too fast. At the same time, its aura was too strong. It was impossible to dodge, so the half-moon immortal lord suffered. Yi Shiwen's expression did not improve much because of this. The half-moon immortal monarch was too strong. If it was Granny Ghost or Violent Corpse Venerable, that attack would have been enough to kill them in one blow. However, when it landed on the half-moon immortal monarch, it was so easily repelled. Was there really such a huge difference between a half-step ruler at the peak of life and Granny Gouet and the others who were already on the decline? Granny Gouet and the others were at the end of their lives and did not dare to attack recklessly. Otherwise, it would only speed up their own deaths. However, the half-moon immortal lord was different. He could maintain his peak at any time, even surpassing it. This was because he had sufficient life force, allowing him to do as he pleased. Previously, Yi Shiwen had relied on his young age to drag them to their deaths. However, it was unlikely that he would be able to use this strategy on half-moon immortal monarch. Across him, the half-moon immortal lord had an unusually grave expression. The two of them were very clear that this was a situation of a pack of wolves biting a tiger to death. The ones who would truly decide the outcome were the two of them. Their victory basically determined the victor of the martial epic and the other ancient epics. Who could survive? The half-moon immortal lord turned around and looked at the martial epic's heavenly Tao, struggling increasingly intensely in the heaven-sealing formation. Without the half-moon immortal lord's support, this heaven-sealing formation could not continue suppressing the martial epic's heavenly Tao. That was to say, if this continued, it would only be a matter of time before the martial epic's heavenly Tao appeared. Therefore, Yi Shiwen felt that time was of the essence. The martial epic was suffering great damage with every passing second. Similarly, he did not have much time left. I don't have much time left. I have to kill this person quickly. At the very least, I have to severely injure him and flee. Otherwise, once the martial epic's heavenly Tao breaks free, the consequences will be dire. The half-moon immortal lord thought to himself. At the same time, he made his move. In an instant, a brilliant light burst forth. The void distorted as a terrifying aura erupted from his body. Then, the half-moon immortal lord charged towards Yi Shiwen with an unimaginable shockwave. Bang! Yi Shiwen also didn't yield a single step. He raised his hand and slapped down with the universe creation palm. Then it gathered in his palm and ruthlessly smashed onto the half-moon immortal monarch's body. Boom! A series of explosions rocked the entire primal chaos. Everything within hundreds of millions of kilometers turned into nothingness. Nothing existed. Time, space, and even the primal chaos had disappeared. In the instant that they exchanged blows, the two of them continued to exchange blows in a frenzy. They had exchanged more than tens of thousands of blows. Neither of them was like Granny Gouet, who had already reached the peak of her life. In fact, it wasn't even a decline. It was already the end of her life. Both of them were at the peak of their lives. Their chi and blood were terrifyingly vigorous. Their life essence was also at its most abundant. There was no need to worry about the consequences of such a battle. Boom, boom, boom. The entire primal chaos was trembling. The incomparably vast primal chaos was trembling from their battle. In the creation realm, both the martial epics experts and the ancient epics experts focused their attention on the two. They knew that their battle was meaningless and couldn't determine the final victor. Only when a victor was decided between Yi Shiwen and the Half-Moon Immortal Lord would everything end. Even the other half-step ruler battlefield in the Primal Chaos had been selectively forgotten by the masses. Both the Primal Chaos Overlord and the Mystic Ability Lord stopped. Even if they continued to fight, it would be difficult to determine a victor. Both of them weren't in their peak condition. The might of their fight was clearly much weaker than when Yi Shiwen and the Half-Moon Immortal Lord fought. Both of them stopped attacking each other. Since they couldn't determine a victor, and the key to victory didn't lie with them, why were they fighting so desperately? Bang! Another loud sound was heard, and a figure was sent flying. Everyone fixed their eyes on that figure, and realized that it was none other than Yi Shiwen. Who else could it be? Yi Shiwen's fortune-treasured robe had been blasted apart. His entire body flew out, blood seeping out of the corner of his mouth. Not far away, the Half-Moon Immortal Lord also revealed himself. However, when everyone looked at the Half-Moon Immortal Lord again, he was clearly different from before. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord had changed his form. His entire body was radiating a fierce moonlight. This moonlight power was comparable to the radiant sun. His skin had also turned silvery white, and his eyes were like two full moons. After transforming into this state, his strength had clearly increased by a notch. Originally, Yi Shiwen was still able to fight evenly with him, but now he was directly blasted away. So strong. Yi Shiwen said coldly as he wiped away the trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord lived up to his name. He wasn't from the martial epic, but he was able to become a half-step ruler. It should be known that the ancient epic's laws were incomplete. Although it wasn't impossible to become a half-step ruler, it was several times more difficult than the martial epic. Someone who could achieve the Tao under such circumstances was indeed capable. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord's strength had already surpassed regular half-step rulers. At this moment, even if Granny Gue and the rest recovered to their peak state, they would not be able to defeat the Half-Moon Immortal Lord. You're the first to force me into this form, the Half-Moon Immortal Lord said coldly. This was a secret art he created. It was called the Moonlight form. In this form, his speed, strength, and every other aspect would increase explosively. However, because the power of this moonlight was accumulated over the years, he did not have to worry about the backlash. It could be said to be a perfect trump card. There would be no backlash, and at the same time, his strength would increase a lot. As long as the power of his moonlight was not exhausted, he did not fear anyone in the same realm. This was his greatest trump card and his greatest confidence. Even though Yi Shiwen had killed 3 half-step rulers, the Half-Moon Immortal Lord was not afraid. Let me send you on your way in my moonlight form. Half-Moon Immortal Monarch roared and attacked again. He had absolute confidence in himself. In this state, even if he encountered Fortune Creation Heavenly Monarch, he would still be able to put up a fight. No, it should be more accurate to say that he had a chance of winning. This terrifying power bombarded Yi Shiwen's body and didn't give him the slightest time to fight back. Oh no, the Eastern Heavenly Venerate is in danger. The Primal Chaos Overlord was the first to react. In fact, in the martial epic, only a half-step ruler like him could react the fastest. The Mystic Abilities Master also reacted, but he was not worried. Instead, he only cheered. However, something even more unexpected happened. The person who was sent flying was not Yi Shiwen, but the Half-Moon Immortal Monarch. The Half-Moon Immortal Monarch was sent flying at the same speed as the Half-Moon Immortal Monarch. Bang! The Half-Moon Immortal Lord vomited a mouthful of blood. He felt his entire body trembling. He could not maintain his moonlight form for much longer, as if it would collapse in the next second. At this time, everyone finally noticed the change in Yi Shiwen. A terrifying force erupted from Yi Shiwen's body. This terrifying force surged forward. Countless talisman Tao laws danced in the air, buffing Yi Shiwen's body, giving him unparalleled strength. Yi Shiwen entered the state of Human One unification. His strength, which had already climbed to its peak, rose by a large margin. At the same time, the terrifying force tore apart his body. Every cell in his body was like a volcano erupting, spewing out energy. However, it also injured him. Even though his cultivation had improved and he had stepped into the 9th level, using the supreme ancestral talisman was still exchanging injuries for injuries. It was a very violent method of fighting. It was not like the half-moon immortal monarch's moonlight form. As long as the moonlight he had accumulated over the years was not exhausted, he could maintain this form, and there would be no repercussions. Just now, half-moon immortal monarch was caught off guard. He did not expect Yi Shiwen, who had already climbed to the peak, to have such a trump card. Moreover, this trump card was so terrifying. Therefore, he took this punch head-on and was sent flying at a faster speed. Do you think you're the only one with a trump card? I have one too. Yi Shiwen sneered. However, he also knew that he could not maintain this state for long. He had to hurry. Boom! Yi Shiwen attacked again. His body directly smashed the primordial chaos and landed on the half-moon immortal lord's body. At this time, the half-moon immortal lord had just stabilized his body in the primordial chaos when he was sent flying by Yi Shiwen. He vomited another mouthful of blood. His body was smashed into pieces. He had suffered a huge loss. Chapter 3787. In the distance, the half-moon immortal lord's body reformed. He looked coldly at Yi Shiwen and said, "You've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time." "That's right, I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time," Yi Shiwen said coldly. He did not enter man unification state right from the start because he was waiting for this opportunity to deal a heavy blow to the half-moon immortal lord. The half-moon immortal lord thought that he had figured out all of Yi Shiwen's strength, but in reality, he was still tricked by Yi Shiwen. In a fight of this level, both sides were calculating the opponents every second and also trying to avoid being tricked. If they were not careful, they would fall into a trap. Both sides were imagining tens of thousands of attack patterns every second, trying their best to grasp all of them. An attack of this level was simply too damaging. Even a peak half-step ruler like the half-moon immortal lord could not remain unaffected when his body was destroyed. The body of a half-step ruler was extremely tough. It was difficult to even injure it. One could only imagine what kind of attack could destroy the body of a half-step ruler. Every time he was destroyed, his vitality was greatly damaged. The half-moon immortal lord looked coldly at Yi Shiwen. In just an instant, all of his injuries had recovered. Then he attacked again. Boom! The primordial chaos exploded again. The speed of the half-moon immortal lord's attack surpassed the speed of light, entering the domain of time. For a heavenly venerable, only those who cultivated the time law or speed law could achieve this level of speed. But for a half-step ruler, this was only the most basic ability. This attack pierced through the primordial chaos and landed on Yi Shiwen's body. At this time, Yi Shiwen also moved. His speed was not slow either. In terms of speed, he could match a half-step ruler like the half-moon immortal lord. Boom! 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 The two erupted into a terrifying battle in the primordial chaos. Compared to before, this battle had clearly escalated. Be it the half-moon immortal lord's moonlight form or Yi Shiwen's man unification state, they both surpassed an ordinary half-step ruler and reached a new peak. Soon, everyone could see that although the two were equally terrifying, there was a huge difference in their fighting styles. Every time the half-moon immortal lord raised a hand or a leg, it was as if there was a bright moon accompanying him. It was enough to shatter the entire world and cause the world to collapse. All of his attacks seemed simple, but their power was boundless. Simple moves could turn something rotten into something magical in his hands. Just a casual attack could change the color of the sky and earth. On the contrary, Yi Shiwen had another kind of complicated style. He didn't have any fixed attacking methods. Fingers, palms, fists, all kinds of weapons and all kinds of great Tao principles were at his fingertips. All kinds of attacks were based on Yi Shiwen's understanding of the great Tao. All of them had great power. It seemed that Yi Shiwen's attack was extremely beautiful and dazzling. However, None of these powerhouses were ordinary people. So they could naturally see that Yi Shiwen's dazzling attack was hiding a terrifying attack. Only Half Moon Immortal Monarch could truly understand how much pressure he was facing at this moment. Many of the attacks that Yi Shiwen had casually thrown out could not even be considered as part of a single system. There were martial arts, magical powers, and even magic techniques. There were talisman Dao attacks, and there were all kinds of them. It was fine if it was just learning a lot. He had seen too many people like that. Learning a lot didn't mean that it was useful. However, Yi Shiwen's mastery of everything was terrifying. Although he had always used his own fighting style to break all the techniques in the world, Yi Shiwen's endless attacks still gave him a headache. More terrifyingly, after entering man unification state, Yi Shiwen's magic power was also enhanced to a terrifying level with the help of the supreme ancestral symbol. Coupled with the good fortune treasure robe, even the Half Moon Immortal Lord couldn't really hurt Yi Shiwen. He would even be suppressed by Yi Shiwen. A casual punch from Yi Shiwen contained terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. Destroying heaven and earth was not just a description. It was truly destroying heaven and earth. Yi Shiwen's control over this power had already reached the peak. Not a single bit leaked out. He controlled all of it and bombarded the Half Moon Immortal Lord's body. Although the Half Moon Immortal Lord could tell that Yi Shiwen's power came from the man unification state and was not a lasting Dao, the Half Moon Immortal Lord didn't have much time. If this went on, he didn't know how long Yi Shiwen could last. However, the martial epic's heavenly Dao would probably rush out of the sky, sealing great formations soon. It was not that simple for an epic's heavenly Dao to be destroyed. This was especially true for an epic like the martial epic's heavenly Dao. It was unimaginably powerful. Bang! As the pressure increased, Yi Shiwen gained an advantage with every attack. Eventually, it turned into a terrifying killing move. Primal Chaos. Yi Shiwen's move slashed down ruthlessly. The Primal Chaos was sliced apart, and the Half Moon Immortal Monarch exploded in front of him. The Half Moon Immortal Lord's vitality was greatly injured after Yi Shiwen's second attack. When he reconstructed his body in the Primal Chaos, his speed was not as fast as before. His breathing became more hurried. "You can't kill me," the Half Moon Immortal Lord said coldly. "You will die if you want to kill me." The Half Moon Immortal Lord was absolutely confident that Yi Shiwen could suppress him with his strength. However, it was impossible for Yi Shiwen to kill him with just the man unification state. "I don't need to kill you because you will die too." Yi Shiwen's breathing became rapid. Cracks started to appear on his body. He had not held back during this series of attacks. Hence, he was also heavily injured. Although the supreme ancestral symbol had increased his strength, the damage to his body was even more exaggerated than the Half Moon Immortal Lord's. Most of his injuries were caused by the supreme ancestral symbol. Naturally, he could not maintain such a state for long. This was also why the Half Moon Immortal Lord was so confident. The Half Moon Immortal Lord also noticed that the aura of the martial epic's heavenly Dao behind him was growing increasingly horrifying. It looked like the martial epic's heavenly Dao would appear soon. Xiao Qin's expression turned increasingly unsightly. Once the martial epic's heavenly Dao was released, then his 100,000 years of planning would be for naught. Everything would be for naught. Everything would be like an illusion. "It looks like I don't have much time left. This time, I really have to deal with you." The Half Moon Immortal Lord's body gave off a terrifying fluctuation. It was the great Dao burning, turning into a terrifying cultivation energy that surged. Although the Half Moon Immortal Lord knew that Yi Shiwen could not kill him because he did not have the time to dilly-dally. Once the martial epic's heavenly Dao awakened, even escaping would be an extravagant hope. Boom! A loud explosion rang out, and the Half Moon Immortal Lord's horrifying energy surged out. The boundless moonlight illuminated the Primal Chaos, and he became incredibly majestic and horrifying. This horrifying aura surpassed the Primal Chaos and instantly arrived before Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen did not show any weakness at this moment. 3,000 martial Daos behind him immediately burst out. He knew that he could not drag this out any longer. The true decisive battle was about to begin. Even if Yi Shiwen wanted to delay for time, the Half-Moon Immortal Lord would not give him that opportunity. 3,000 martial Daos poured into his body and turned into a horrifying frenzy, crashing towards the Half-Moon Immortal Lord. Rumble! With a loud bang, the attacks of the two collided with each other. Blood was spilled in the chaos, and golden blood floated in the air. Yi Shiwen's shoulder exploded, and a huge, bloody hole appeared in the Half-Moon Immortal Lord's chest. The two had practically given up on defense, focusing on killing each other. Die! A scimitar had appeared in the Half-Moon Immortal Lord's hand. The scimitar looked like a crescent moon as it appeared and slashed downwards. The Sword of Destiny also appeared in Yi Shiwen's hand. The two half-step sovereign-grade Dao treasures collided in the primal chaos. Sparks flew in all directions, and a violent tremor ensued. These sparks instantly turned into a sea of fire, burning the entire primal chaos. Both their palms exploded, and blood splattered everywhere. The web between their thumb and forefinger was a bloody mess. Both were injured, and neither could do anything to the other. However, they both had a strong will to kill each other. At this moment, they completely erupted. Boom, boom, boom. Both of them had many large wounds on their bodies. Every time they collided, a fatal wound would be left on each other's body. However, both of them did not care at all. They forcefully suppressed their injuries and wanted to kill each other on the spot with a spurt of energy. Blood flowed and dripped from the primal chaos. Bone fragments flew everywhere, and the blood of a supreme splashed in the primal chaos. It was a ghastly sight. The Half-Moon Immortal Lord's face was ashen, and he was furious to the extreme. If this was in the past, would he even care about a mere heavenly venerate? However, this mere heavenly venerate made him feel extremely sullen. All his plans had failed in the hands of this person. Boom! After another collision, both of their bodies finally couldn't take it anymore and exploded on the spot. However, just as they were fighting crazily, an even more terrifying aura engulfed the primal chaos. No, it should be said that it engulfed the entire place. An extremely terrifying existence had broken free. In an instant, a monstrous hand grabbed at the two of them in the middle of the battlefield. Chapter 3788. In that instant, both Yi Shiwen and the Half-Moon Immortal Lord sustained severe injuries. It felt like the world crumbled under their attacks. Blood spilled everywhere in the primal chaos. The scene looked extremely miserable. Both of them fought with all their might, even sustaining severe injuries. Following that, an extremely horrifying aura enveloped the entire place. Heavenly Dao. Yi Shiwen immediately felt a sense of familiarity. It was indeed the martial epic's Heavenly Dao. He turned his head to take a look. Indeed, the sky-ceiling Great Array had been smashed into pieces. The Dominator Dao tools that were originally suppressing the martial epic's Heavenly Dao had all fled. Although they were only sovereign Dao tools, they had their own intelligence. Now that the martial epic's Heavenly Dao had appeared, they could not just sit here and wait for death. A horrifying aura instantly enveloped the place. Even the Half-Moon Immortal Lord could feel this horrifying aura. Oh no! The Half-Moon Immortal Lord roared. He instantly realized what had appeared. He glared at Yi Shiwen ferociously. 100,000 years of planning, a situation where a pack of wolves would bite a tiger to death, even putting in a lot of effort to obtain Sage Absolute Heaven's inheritance, exhausting all his means, and finally trapping the martial epic's Heavenly Dao. However, all his efforts had failed. Clearly, the person who caused all his efforts to fail was none other than Yi Shiwen. An overwhelming hand appeared from the depths of the primal chaos and grabbed at the Half-Moon Immortal Lord. Bang! The Half-Moon Immortal Monarch let out a blood-curdling scream. His body, which he had just reassembled, was instantly crushed to smithereens. This was at least 10 times more terrifying and severe than when he had been crushed by Yishiwen. The might of the martial epic's heavenly Tao's rage was easy to imagine. This was not the rage of the heavenly Tao itself. Instead, it was the rage of countless life forms on the verge of despair or being trampled to death. The hearts of the people were the will of heaven. The rage of the life forms of the martial epic was the rage of the martial epic's heavenly Tao. When Yishiwen saw this scene, he could only feel an incomparable horror. The half-moon immortal lord, who could fight with others in the same state and even injure each other, could not retaliate before the martial epic's heavenly Tao. How could he resist such a mighty heavenly might? No wonder Shao Chun had to resort to sneak attacks, using the heaven-sealing formation to seal the martial epic's heavenly Tao, not daring to clash head-on. It was precisely because he knew how terrifying the martial epic's heavenly Tao was that he did not dare to attack casually. It was simply too shocking. Shao Chun forced the half-moon immortal lord into a dead end with one strike, nearly clawing him to death. However, the martial epic's heavenly Tao had not vented its frustrations yet. The half-moon immortal lord's figure traversed the primal chaos. The injuries on his body were too horrifying. Some were so deep that his bones were visible. Some were completely mangled. If this continued, the martial epic's heavenly Tao would be destroyed soon. How great of a grudge was this? Dying. A horrifying voice filled with rage rang out. The martial epic's heavenly Tao sent another hand sweeping over. Half-moon immortal lord's body, which he had just reassembled, was about to explode again. Suddenly, a scroll appeared in the half-moon immortal monarch's hand. He crushed the entire scroll into powder. Then a transfer gate appeared in front of him. He instantly escaped into the transfer gate. The half-moon immortal monarch let out a blood-curdling scream. Although he reacted quickly and managed to escape in an instant, half of his body was still blasted apart. The martial epic's heavenly Tao moved too quickly. Even though the half-moon immortal lord had already prepared a way to escape, half of his body still exploded. He could not bring this half of his body with him. Clearly, even if he managed to escape, he would have to struggle for a long time, becoming extremely weak. Such a tyrannical expert cultivated both life and death. His physical body contained most of his essence. Now that his body exploded like that, he probably lost hundreds of millions of years of cultivation. The entire portal was destroyed by this huge hand. When a martial epic's heavenly Tao saw that its attack did not land, it could not help frowning slightly. Unexpectedly, it also showed a human-like expression. Following that, the martial epic's heavenly Tao looked at the divine ability's master standing in the primal chaos. In that instant, the divine ability's master felt a horrifying sense of doomsday. He wanted to flee, but he was not like the half-moon immortal lord, who was prepared for failure. To him, this battle was a matter of life or death. Even if he did not succeed, he would not be able to live for long. He could only fight to the death. Hence, he was not prepared. Bang! The divine ability's master could not dodge at all. He did not even have time to react. He was killed on the spot, turning into a blood mist that filled the air. Then, under the influence of a mysterious force, this blood mist entered the primal chaos overlord's body. The primal chaos overlord's injuries, which had been suppressed for many years, actually recovered at a startling speed. In just a short time, it had already recovered to its peak. This was much more effective than the countless life forms it had slaughtered earlier. Clearly, this was a reward from the heavenly Tao. Then, the martial epic's heavenly way traversed the primal chaos and arrived before Yishiwen. With a wave of its hand, a majestic energy immediately poured into Yishiwen's body. In an instant, all the injuries Yishiwen had sustained from the previous exchange had healed. If Yishiwen had to recover on his own, he would have to spend a lot of time. It was not just the recovery of his injuries. Just the burning of his life force would not be that easy to replenish. Yishiwen was not like the other half-step sovereigns, who absorbed the life force of other life forms to recover quickly. You very good. The martial epic's heavenly Tao nodded, a rare smile appearing on its face. Although this smile only flashed for a moment, Yishuan still caught it. However, Yishuan did not find it strange. The kindness of the heavenly Tao was the kindness of all life forms. He had made great contributions in saving the martial epic this time. When the time came, there might be more benefits. The martial epic's heavenly Tao crossed the universe and instantly appeared on the epic battlefield. At this moment, the epic battlefield had already become a battlefield for the half-step sovereigns. Yishuan looked over. Even the 10 great divine cities could only tremble in a battle of this level. The defenses of the 10 great divine cities had been significantly reduced. Similarly, there were countless deaths and injuries. However, what infuriated Yishuan even more was that Moon City had been flattened again. This was the loophole in the epic battlefield's defenses. No wonder the Fortune God dynasty did not receive any news this time before they suddenly broke into the Fortune God dynasty's territory. It turned out that Moon City had been flattened. Moon City, which had already been breached once, was indeed the weakest of the 10 great divine cities. This was especially so since many of the formations that the Fortune God Heavenly Monarch had laid down had been erased. Hence, these ancient epics clearly knew this and chose to use Moon City as a breakthrough point. They were indeed very smart. Yishuan looked into the distance and saw a head hanging from a pole on top of Moon City's walls. Upon closer inspection, who else could it be but the space-time Heavenly Venerate? Unlike the previous Moon City Lord, although the space-time Heavenly Venerate had just become the Moon City Lord, he clearly did not flee. Instead, he fought until the end and died. His head was even chopped off and used as a deterrent to all those who resisted. The entirety of Moon City was completely barren. All living creatures had been slaughtered. Although the other god cities had also suffered heavy losses, they weren't completely wiped out. After Moon City fell, these ancient epics had come to destroy the martial epic. They did not intend to rule the martial epic. Hence, they did not hold back at all and killed everyone. At this moment, on the epic battlefield, a green-robed, ordinary-looking man with a unique charm was practically dealing with all sorts of attacks from all directions by himself. He was unimaginably strong, like a deity of heaven and earth. The ones attacking him were all half-step sovereigns. Furthermore, there was more than one. Even so, they could not break through this man's defenses. He was able to block such a terrifying attack with his own strength. Qin Zun. That must be Qin Zun. Yishuan looked at that man. He should be Qin Zun, whom he had heard of for a long time but never had the chance to meet. Qin Zun was also an incomparably famous existence. Long before Yishuan attained the Tao, he had heard of Qin Zun's various legends and fame. In fact, back in the Myriad Realms, Yishuan had received many benefits from Qin Zun. Moreover, both of them came from the Myriad Realms and were humans. Naturally, they felt a sense of closeness. However, Qin Zun's strength still deeply shocked Yishuan. Although Yishuan had killed several half-step sovereigns along the way, he had killed them one by one. However, Qin Zun had dealt with several half-step sovereigns at the same time without being at a disadvantage. In terms of strength, Qin Zun had probably reached the peak of half-step sovereigns. He was much stronger than the current Yishuan. However, when he saw these half-step sovereigns surrounding Qin Zun, he couldn't help but feel a little lucky. If these half-step sovereigns had entered the Fortune God dynasty, he wouldn't have been able to stop the collapse of the heavens, even if he had the determination to fight to the death. These were not half-step sovereigns like the heavenless demon monarch. They were peak half-step sovereigns. The difficulty would be much higher. Although Yishuan did not fear these half-step sovereigns now, he might not have had a chance to break through at the beginning. Fortunately, he had other comrades fighting alongside him this time. Suddenly, the martial epic's heavenly Tao descended, causing all the half-step sovereigns to panic. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.